And welcome back to Mixed Media. This is another fantastic Monday evening, night, where we get to talk about some of our favorite things, and I do love to talk about our favorite things. And this is going to be a fun show where we talk about, well, a lot of different things, and so you should stick around to figure out what they are. And as always, hit us up in the chat, whether you're on Discord, on Rumble, on YouTube, on Twitch, wherever you are, you hit us up in the chat. We're going to integrate you into this live podcast because that's what we do. Some housekeeping notes. We have a new supporter, Post, who is an awesome dude, game developer. He has supported us on on Locals. If you go to mixedmedia.locals.com, you can join him. But also shout out to 99 Crime and Rob Sharma for also supporting us. That makes 3 supporters. I'm super excited about that. So, yeah, if you want to join them, doodle on the live whiteboard here. Oh, I pointed the right direction for once. There we go. You can doodle on that live whiteboard. It is indeed live. And you can also see all the other perks on that website. I will be updating it very soon as I'm uploading a YouTube video for my own personal channel tomorrow. A little later than I expected, but that's okay. Got to get it perfect. But what you do get, along with all the perks for Mixed Media, are all the perks for my own personal YouTube channel as well, or my company's YouTube channel. So that will be updated on there soon if you're curious as to what that will look like. But it's a lot of bang for your $5. I will say that for sure. Yeah, so that's the housekeeping. So without further ado, we'll introduce ourselves. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
And I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and game developer.
Yeah, and I didn't describe what the show was.
I should also mention that Ben's not here.
Oh, yes. Ben is... Ben, who is usually to my left, is not here today. He'll be here back next week. But yeah, so he usually talks about music stuff. What was I saying? Oh yeah, what the podcast is. So the podcast is a weekly live show where we talk about pretty much anything that we like to talk about in our respective fields, so gaming, music, and movies, and sometimes 3D modeling, blah, 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 blah. But anything pretty much to do with those things, whatever we feel like. As you'll see today, that it can be kind of tangentially related, as I will be doing another economics update. I haven't done one in a very long time. And we'll be talking about SVB Bank, which is a huge, it's an economic story of a decade, of the decade. I think that's what you're supposed to say.
Of decades, right? Is it the, I can't remember if it's the largest, is it the largest bank collapse since the 1980s or since 2008? I don't remember which.
Since 2008, which is the largest bank failure ever. So.
Oh, well. There you go.
So I can't go past that anyway, unless it was bigger. So that's what the show is. I don't know why I'm all over the place today. I've had a super busy day. Part of it has to do with the bank run, so we'll be talking about that. But how was your week, Nathan?
It's been alright, and actually I added a YouTube clip to the Discord channel. Can you pull that up? It's about the finals, which I mentioned before. The game, the finals, not like school. Speaking of school, I'm on a spring break, so there's that. But
Jack Frags.
Yeah, you know why? Because Jack Frags did a lot of Battlefield things, right? And this is made by the ex-devs, or some of the ex-devs of Battlefield, who created Embark Studios, and they're published by Nexon, I believe. Nexon is a name I definitely have heard before. I know their logo, I just can't remember what they've done. Nexon, let's see.
Wait, did they do Combat Arms? Or were they the store for Combat Arms, I should say? That's where it sounds familiar for me.
Sure. Oh, it doesn't belong. So I was under the impression that Nexon was Japanese, but it says Japanese, South Korean. It's both. How does that work for a company? How can it be both?
I actually don't know.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Interesting. So games. Let's see. Combat Arms. Is that one? Oh, it is one of them. Yes.
Oh, I was right. Woo-hoo. Can't believe I remember that.
Apparently apparently, well, Nexon. Wow, Nexon sued someone who distributed cheats for combat arms and was awarded $1.4 million in damages.
Good. Good.
Wow.
Sue all the cheaters. The cheaters ruin everything.
Oh, which is wow. That actually leads me to another story. Not gonna. Okay, just if I forget, remind me to say something about Tarkov. just
Okay,
remind me.
Tarkov. Got it.
Yes. All right.
Should I play this with audio or?
No, audio is not required because I'll be talking over it.
Okay.
This is the finals. It's not really news, but look, it's been getting on my nerves a little bit because even though it looks super cool, um, as you can see, the main crazy part about it is everything is destructible. Not like Battlefield destructible, like Battlefield times 2 destructible, where everything looks pretty good. Everything seems to be pretty dynamic, even though there are some cases where you can tell it's not. Yeah, it's a pretty cool looking arcade game, very well stylized. Not like top tier stylization, but it's better than like generic Battlefield realism. I'm kind of getting a little bit tired of that. But the reason why it's getting my nerves is because, dude, I've thought that this has been impossible for like years. So I enjoy programming like physics based things. I don't know. It's kind of satisfying in a way, and also like it gets your brain working too. And it's always like a fun puzzle to me. I have thought so much about things like deformation and destruction, like dynamic destruction. Things like this are the things I thought I was like, it's not really possible. like with our computing power currently, I thought about it, I was like, I don't really think, especially not client side, which by the way, all the damage is synced client side, which doesn't mean it's calculated client side, but at least all the position of random debris and stuff like that is all client side, which is useful because in Battlefield it's not the same client side, which means that you might feel like you're behind some cover of something that's been destroyed, but for the person, that thing is in some other location because physics is not deterministic in almost all video games.
Yeah.
So a little bit of randomization going on. But yeah, this is like super impressive and something I just thought like wasn't something we'd see for a very long time until we had some revolution in computing. I even considered the idea of using GPU-based computing for certain portions of this, but it seems like they're able to figure it out. Oh, that's an advertisement. But it seems like they were able to figure it out without any of that. But yeah, that's that.
So why is it called the finals, by the way? I've never heard of this game actually.
Yeah, so it's not out yet, I should say. There's a beta that people have, a closed beta at the moment. You can sign up for it. It will be free on launch, anyways, so anyone will be able to play it. I think the idea, I was supposed to say the lore, which I guess is the lore of the universe, is I believe it's like a essentially a competition, like a Squid Games, like a Hunger Games, like that type of idea of like a game. I think that's what it is, at least. The finals are accepting new contestants. Okay, I think that's the idea.
Interesting. So, I was wondering if they're gunning for like an esports type market or not.
No, it doesn't seem. I will say it doesn't. I don't think I'm going to enjoy it that much for certain reasons. For one, I think like arcade shooters, like the ones I play, they just kind of get like after some time, I'm like, all right, I've had enough. Although sometimes that does take a while. But also, you might notice there are a lot of I think Jack Frags even says it in his video, or maybe it's another. No, it's a different YouTuber who comments on the fact that there are a lot of noob-tube-like devices, which you don't know what that is. Those are essentially, I think traditionally they're grenade launchers, but they can be things like rocket launchers, essentially things that go explode and require almost no skill to use, essentially. The choice of the noob, I guess, as a weapon. The issue with this is like, when I was watching this Jack Frags gameplay, which is like the first gameplay I've ever seen in the game, I was thinking, man, this rocket launcher, when he's using it, seems pretty overpowered. You just kind of look at somebody, you click, and they're dead. And it's not like, I feel like the exchange of this game just so happened to be in a range where it's like not far enough where you don't have to lead crazy far because of rocket's travel time, but also not close enough where you'll explode yourself. So it's like a kind of annoying thing where it's like, it actually is just good.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'd be very aggravated if I was just running around and suddenly
Get noob
randomly got
tubes.
exploded, and it doesn't feel like I had any chance or anything like that. I had the same issue with snipers in a lot of games.
Oh yeah.
Uh, yeah, and I actually recently watched a video on snipers and their issue, and it really is like, yeah, it's like kind of like how you solve it. It's kind of tough because and it's not going to work for all games because
Wait, can I guess at how you solve it?
sure.
My thought up with snipers has always been, and this is after watching Armor Hardcore gameplay with snipers, is you make it just extremely hard. You just make it like more realistic, actually, but or like I mean, but generically, like just make it much harder, which makes sniping less fun. But for a lot of people, it will still be fun for the hardcore players. But then they deserve that W, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, so here's
That's
the
what I
thing.
thought.
It's like a it's okay. So yeah, so like one of the things he said essentially raised like the skill ceiling to do it right.
Yeah.
The thing is, we already exist. That's already done in many games. Say even like Call of Duty, where I consider this an issue. It's like you may feel like, wow, you die by a sniper, and it's like, wow, this thing is overpowered. Let me use it, and then you use it, and you're like, wow, I cannot kill a single person. It's because like it actually does require skill. It's not easy, especially.
Yeah, but even that, I would say like that is not nearly as bad. Like Armor Hardcore sniping, you can't snipe while standing up. Like pretty much with anything that's a large. That's not like just a regular scout rifle or something like that. Like anything that's meant to be fired from a stationary position does not fire well from the shoulder, if that makes sense.
Well, here's the thing, right? So you have the issue on COD where it's not hard enough, right? So the issue is that like, well, there are too many of these people running around, causing being menaces essentially, right? But even if you increase the skill ceiling, it's still like you have a chance of being there's less chance, but still a chance to be in a lobby of someone who's just a menace, right? It's just not fun anymore, It just takes one guy to run the lobby,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, maybe in I don't even know.
In a slower type gameplay, I guess it makes more sense because like the overall chessboard matters more than like the specific engagement with like when you get hit by a sniper and if you're doing like a hardcore milsim type match, right? Like you get killed by that sniper, you don't just blame, oh wow, the sniper was so good. I mean that's part of it, but like it's also like, wow, our positioning, in general wasn't optimal and like, all that kind of stuff.
Assuming some level of map balance, but yeah, because you could just be in a situation where the sniper is just OP in this map or something like that,
Yeah,
just like, there is no strategic way to get around this. Really.
Yeah.
So I don't remember what the solution was proposed, but essentially I wish I knew the YouTuber too, so I could recommend the video. But essentially, they just looked at like essentially all like the stats of the generic stats of weapons like damage and rate of fire and stuff like that, and compared them and just saw that like the sniper is just like a shotgun but better. It's a shotgun with range. It's like the and perhaps less mobility, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
Where that like, and the thing is like, you can ask yourself like, well, what about in real life? Why isn't just in like real like military situations? Why doesn't everyone just carry around a sniper, right? Like if it's just that good. Well, the issue is like, there's many issues.
There's many issues.
But like some of them are, of course, mobility, which we already have in games where maybe like moving around is slower or ADSing is a lot slower, right? Which is interesting because a lot of games will let you remove the classic, 4 times or 8 times scope and put like just have iron sights or like a red dot, and suddenly your ADS is faster. It's like,
I know.
Just made a better version of the of the.
That's bad.
I think Battlefield does that, if I recall correctly.
Yes, they do. That's bad.
Is it Battlefield I think it's Battlefield, and there's like that balancing thing for snipers in Battlefield where that if a sniper is looking at you through a scope, there's a little like a glint, like a little like like a little light that comes from there. I don't know how that doesn't really make sense. A little light that comes from their scope.
I mean, it happens in real life, but not like the way it happens in the game, of course.
Because it's regardless of where like the sun is, right, or anything like that. It's just always like a beam of light. But the thing is, once you remove the scope and you have iron sights or red dot, it doesn't do that anymore.
You just have a better shotgun.
It's just a better shotgun. It's literally just that. So I don't know. It's very, very strange. Yeah, I can't remember quite what the solution was. We look up like sniper balancing or something like that on YouTube. Maybe you'll find it. why did we get? Oh yeah. So the reason why we're on this tangent is I feel like the rocket launcher in this game is going to be very similar in nature. One of the interesting things, though, sorry, this is a really long tangent, but Ben's not here, so we have time.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things about balancing is that in games like CS:GO and Valorant, you expect that people of such high caliber skill would be using the sniper, right? Because they all have the reaction time to use it, right? But in a game like Valorant or CS:GO, they don't all use the sniper. Like that's considered like not good a good strategy.
Yeah.
You might have one out of the five player, or maybe two out of the five players using a sniper. And why would that be? Well, what's interesting is that in these games, the time to kill is so low that it doesn't actually matter as much at the high levels. So when you consider in CS:GO, where the AK is a one shot to the head, or in Valorant, the Vanguard is a one shot to the head. Well, at this point, right, if you have people who are very good at shooting heads, then what advantage do you gain from a sniper at that point?
You know what? Actually, that also helps with Arma as well because the TTK is so low.
Right, yeah.
So like, you don't think of guns the same way at all. You just think of them all as lethal, right? And you're just picking like something that has like the other features that like is useful.
Yeah, imagine putting like red dot on a sniper in armor. It's like you just have a worse M4. Like, you just have an M4 that shoots once every like 3 years. Because exactly. He's not useful about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was I saying? So that's the interesting thing. Well, the thing is, it actually the balance changes though when you get to like average player, right? Where now having snipers in Valorant or CS:GO is more useful if it's easier for newer players to use, than expert players. It was very interesting. It's like, how do you, as a game dev, what do you do about that? How do you balance the game? Do you balance it for pro players or for the average player? And is it? Oh, my computer just. Oh, never mind. Good. And is it? Maybe it's not even bad necessarily. It's like, well, the balance is just different. It's just that the ratio has become 2 snipers instead of 1 sniper per team, right? And that's just fine or something like that. It's not like it's literally so good that everyone is required to have this weapon to win.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. But I think I'm done with that point.
That was a cool tangent. I thought that was an interesting conversation.
Yeah, so that's the finals. RPG's kind of annoying, potentially. We'll see. And I'll definitely review it when it comes out, especially because it's free. And yeah. On to
Wait, it's free? Is that what you said?
It will be free when it comes out, yes.
What?
Yes. This is the new trend of games because $60 model is not working out. It's not working out.
But that's predictable. We've talked about it on the show many times.
Oh yeah. They moved to $70, and people don't want to buy it, or are still not really.
So now they're gonna have loot crates forever, man. Loot crate city.
Yeah, I think they mentioned what exactly you could purchase. I remember thinking that nothing there was like egregious. It wasn't like overpowered weapon. I don't know if you can buy weapons. I don't actually remember that's a thing. It might just be cosmetics and things like this. But yeah. Cool. There's Tarkov. That's the only thing I wanted to mention. Mm-hmm. So I haven't been here for 2 weeks, so this news is actually like I should have said this last week, I think. But interesting. I was watching Linus Tech Tips, or I guess Linus from Linus Tech Tips has a podcast called The WAN Show. I don't know what that stands for, but I rarely watch it, so I just kind of randomly decided to watch it one time, and. It has some interesting gaming news. It was very interesting because the podcast is not just Linus. It's Linus and a fellow employee for Linus Tech Tips Media Group, I think is what the whole company is called, named Luke. And Luke was mentioned how he quit playing Escape from Tarkov, a game that he loves. If you don't know, Escape from Tarkov is like a shooter. A relatively hardcore shooter, I guess. Not in the way of like Arma hardcore, but it's not a simulator, I guess. But low PTK, high stakes type of thing. He was talking about how he had this, how he quit because of so many cheaters in the game, and how he had this person he knew who was making a YouTube video on it, right? And he was like, I can't really say, what's going on in the YouTube video or how he found out that there's so many cheaters because, it's his YouTube video. I'm not going to spoil the video. You guys just watch it yourselves. This YouTuber is essentially like relatively unknown. He's not like he's not like a big player or anything like that. I guess Luke couldn't keep his mouth closed, and so he just kept like divulging small details over and over and over again to the point where he's like, you know what, I was gonna say everything or most of the things. In which case, the guy who was creating the video took the opportunity to release it while that was happening. And I think he has like millions of views on it, like maybe 2 million or 1 million views on that video. So I mean, I guess good for him. And it's crazy. So essentially, what he did was he downloaded a cheats himself. He downloaded a cheat that gave him wall hacks, essentially, and stuff like that. And there's this. I think the video is called. It's by a person named Goat, and the video is called like the Wiggle that killed Tarkov or something like that. And the reason is because back in the day, there used to be like you can lean left and right in the game, right? Like for tactical reasons, but in the game it's not like you can. It's very interesting in that imagine like DayZ, right? In DayZ, you don't have to be aggressive towards everyone, right? You can let people go, let people be, right? You don't have to frag everyone out, right? It's not. DayZ isn't like a FPS like that, right? Same thing with Tarkov, although there's probably a lot more shooting. It's not a required thing to do, right? Mm-hmm. So people would signal that they're friendly to each other by wiggling left and right, by leaning back and forth, right? And that would say, hey guys, not an issue. Please don't attack me. And so a person would wiggle back, and it'd be like, yeah, okay, cool. Now, what he found was that when he was cheating, people who are cheating would do this through the wall to see if you're cheating and you're friendly at the same time, right? So they would wiggle, and you can see the characters' outlines with wall hacks, right? So they would wiggle, and a cheater would see them, and they'd be like, oh yeah, it's a fellow cheater, and we're both friendly, and then wiggle. And basically, he just documented the fact that this would happen, and it's very common that people were cheating, essentially. Wow. And that ruined the game for a lot of people, especially because of the way the game is. It's kind of high stakes. The way I understand is that I don't understand this fully, to be clear. So maybe I might have some wrong impressions, but it's something like you go into the game with some loot you choose, and you try to gather more loot. And if you die, though, you lose all the loot you came in with. So that's gone forever. Like you don't get that back, right? Unless you go back, you have to go back in and get the loot again, right? So dying is actually like a big issue, right? I think you even lose your weapons, I think, as well,
Yeah.
So dying is no small thing. So it really is aggravating when that happens. It caused a lot of people. The video caused a lot of people to quit playing the game. It caused the developers to respond, actually, and it caused, get this, people to get arrested in China because they were selling the cheat, and they're making a lot of money apparently off of that. So yeah. And then
by the way, guy, like people need to take that kind of stuff seriously because it is actually illegal. It's illegal here too. Like you can't. Cheating is equivalent to like essentially hacking. Like you are like hacking the software for all intents and purposes. Typically in the end user license agreement, it'll say you cannot reverse engineer the software. You can't modify the software, stuff like that. Well, that's on the civil side. I'm saying it even on the criminal side. There are criminal statutes about altering things digitally, and you should be careful when you do that. So,
right,
yeah.
So, yeah, they got gooned for that. But then apparently something happened where so there's actually 3 videos that Goat made on this. The second video came out. I think after the second video came out, he went to interview the cheat makers or something like that, and they got on a Discord call, and somehow they like connected. Because okay, think about it. If you're making cheats, are you likely to be the most ethical person? Probably not. Okay, and so as we mentioned before with mods, when you install a mod, you are giving pretty much unfettered access to your computer to whoever made the mod.
Yes,
they can do whatever they want. Not maybe. Okay, sorry. They have the ability to put in software onto your computer that lets them do whatever they want. Not that they necessarily did that, right? But they can run any sort of code they want to, right? So people, they're either downloading people's code who is, potentially fairly unethical people, right? And what happened? Well, somehow they found out what computer. They were doing that essentially, where they had access to people's computers, and somehow they connected using I think using the Discord call thing, maybe expose an IP or something like that, where they were able to figure out which one of the computers they had access to was his, and they erased his entire drives. So,
oh my gosh,
yeah, so that was a wild turn. I didn't expect it because I remember just watching like the WAN show. I'm like, oh, this is like innocent. It's just random, like it's just like, oh, that's an interesting story, right? I expect a video with millions of views, 3 videos, people to be arrested, and the dude's drives to be erased to happen. So, yeah, that is kind of crazy. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the Tarkov devs are going to do, but yeah, it's probably looking kind of unfortunate for them. But yeah. It makes me wonder how much they knew about this, how much they knew about cheating, if they knew it was happening in large scale. I don't really know. I mean, yeah, I don't really know. Yeah. So that's the Tarkov news. Or, I guess, why did I guess that's news. I think we didn't even get to the news segment yet. News.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying we didn't get to the news segment yet. It was talking about how was your week.
This is true.
Yeah. But I guess before we go into actual news, for my actual week, I downloaded a game called Operation Harsh Doorstop, which is an interesting game because I'll be reviewing it next week probably, and it's free. And it was created by it's for free entirely. There is no monetization stuff in it at all. You can donate to the project. And why is this? It's because it was created by a YouTuber named what's his name? Blue Drake 42, I think is his name, and he's a pretty popular YouTuber, and he especially does a lot of videos about FPSs and upcoming games, stuff like that. And he felt that he wanted to create essentially a modding platform. Essentially, what he did, he created a FPS that is hyper moddable. Was the idea, and yeah, completely donation funded. It's pretty cool. So that's all I have for my week, I guess.
Sweet.
How's yours?
My week is kind of nuts. I've been trying to put out a YouTube video for a while now, and it's just, types of videos I make are really time consuming in post production. So it's done now. I actually exported it a few hours ago. So it'll be coming out tomorrow. So if you want to check that out, you can go to YouTube and you can search Ariella, Auriela. My company name, and you'll find it very easily, or search my name. I think it will come up. I think. So that's been taking up with the majority of my week. And there's other stuff that's been going on. Oh yeah, just a bunch of some normal business stuff, but business is growing, which feels really nice. And gearing up to buy a house, and gearing up to survive the bank run, which is what it'll be my topic for my segment later. So that's pretty much my week.
Nice. I'm curious. Has that affected you personally?
Not directly. Well, so no, but the whole economy obviously affects.
Right. Yeah. I wasn't sure if like somehow you managed to get like $1 into SVB or something. I wasn't sure how that happened.
No. It would be theoretically possible for me to be exposed to it though, because if I had an investor that had money in SVB or something like that, I had pitched the esport, let's say, that I've been working at, and some angel investor came in and was like, "Here's a milli," and then the milli resides in SVB. That'd be a pretty terrible situation.
I don't know if you've seen the recent. I don't want to. I guess we'll continue later.
We'll continue later. Yes, I'm actually extremely up to date with it because it's extremely important. Okay. Yeah. All right. How about news though?
Okay, so aside from the news, it took forever to say before.
Yeah.
The news, I posted one in the Discord. So on Epic Games is like, I guess, a blog. I guess you call this. They have an article titled "Epic Games Store launches self-publishing tools for game developers and publishers." So typically before on Epic Games, it was a more exclusive platform by far than Steam. On Steam, putting a game on Steam is fairly trivial. You pay $100 for the essentially the ability to put games on Steam. It's a one-time payment, right? So once you do that once, you can put games on Steam forever. It has to go through some, basic like checks to make sure the game is like a real game, some things like this, Yeah. But based on the things you can find on Steam, it's definitely not like a high bar to meet necessarily. Epic Games, which has been not like that, and it's a lot more exclusive. You can't simply pay a fee and go through some simple checks and it goes through until now, I guess. Um, I think it's been more of you have to have connections with either you are a big developer or you have a big publisher type of thing, or Epic Games chooses you themselves. It's not going to be, it's a lot more handpicked, I guess. And so Epic Games, what has this done for them? Like, why would they go for this, right? Well, there is like there's especially in the indie dev community, there's like I guess a poor sentiment for the shovelware, or what people call shovelware, that's on Steam, and the fact that people say like, oh, there's so many games on Steam and stuff like that, and I'm competing against so many people, and if I want to get front paged, it's gonna be so hard, right? Well, as I've said before, a lot of most of these games are actually just shovelware. They're not good. Oh, sorry. Okay, they're not good enough for people to buy in any quantity greater than 2 or something like that. So a lot of these people aren't actually competitors, but there definitely are competitors, right? Definitely at least Weekly is going to be like a game that's like, hey, that's actually pretty good. Some people would actually buy that if they knew about it. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily daily occurrence or something like that. Or was I can't remember if when I did Steam Profit, that was a week or a month. I feel like it was a week. So yeah, it'd be like, I remember finding like a couple games. I think it's like one that was like, it's actually like pretty good. So yeah, it's not all too common. So I would consider that a little bit of a myth, in my opinion. Yes, it is true that at some point there was a time where being front page was a lot easier, right? Because there actually was very few competition. But we are long past that, and like any increase in games is not that significant anymore in terms of like competition like that. Like the new games that you were still not getting front page. You know what I'm saying? Like this is like sorry, I shouldn't say you are not, because you can. I'm saying the odds are still like without putting in a lot of effort, the odds are still low. You know what I'm saying? You still need to put in like the high effort. Not saying that to be front page before you need to put in like no effort, but it was definitely like a lot more of a not guaranteed, but a more likely thing to happen just by being on Steam. Just by being on Steam, like being front page wouldn't be that crazy of an idea. But still not there. With Epic Games, well, it's a lot more, big names, things like this. Obviously, if there are definitely smaller games, but they are, handpicked to be, quality and whatnot, and not randomness. But they decided to go, and by the way, Epic Games does pay out better for devs. I forget what the number is, but in terms of the percent that Epic Games takes, it's less. Steam takes like average 30%. I think Epic Games like 12 or something like that. So
huge difference.
It's a lot better. So that's like sort of like a lot of people don't like using Epic Games. I guess that's like a good part of the deal for people who end up using Epic Games. But what has changed? So they say that it's very similar to Steam, where you can simply pay $100 per game, though, which is interesting. It is not one time, which I mean maybe kind of fair, because one, it keeps the more exclusive thing going on, which they might still like, and also, if you're the type of person who's releasing a lot of games on Steam, you probably can afford to shell out $100 per game. That's probably not the craziest thing ever. You have to create your I guess Epic Games page or whatever. Do the normal stuff. You have to obtain. Oh, sorry, that's optional. Okay, never mind. They need to submit the game for review, and I don't know what that review looks like, but they do have some requirements, and these requirements are a little, I guess, more a little more strict, yes, than Steam. Actually, fairly. The big one that surprised me is that if the game if it's multiplayer, it must have crossplay across PC stores, which is interesting. So, if you have a game that's on Epic Games and you also put it on Steam, you must be able to play, if it's a multiplayer game, you must be able to play with people on Epic Games and Steam, which does make a lot of sense because the Steam user base is pretty large, and being able to tap into that as Epic Games, is very nice. You don't want to have people making games and it's like, well, the Steam version is only for Steam people, and the Epic Games version you don't play with Epic Games people, and it's like that's kind of tough because now my incentive to play on Steam is a lot greater when all my friends are on Steam, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, if it's on Epic Games and it can work on Steam, that's fine, you know. But it says it just says across. I'm sure maybe there's some like more precise legal jargon that it's in like the actual agreement, right? But in the blog post, it says all PC stores. I'm wondering what does it mean by all? Like, certainly there are some obscure stores where like, so do you have to like because with Steam, right? Steam has an API or a tool that you can use to more easily manage multiplayer with other Steam players. Lets you invite people to your games and things like that, create lobbies, stuff like that. So I'm wondering, would you have to do this for every store, use their tools, or would you have to create or use some third party tool essentially that does not care about what PC store you're using? In which case, then you don't have access to good things like inviting people to parties via their Steam account and stuff like that. Or you can do both, where like you have it on Steam, it works for Steam like specifically, and then for all other stores or something like that, then it's like you use the generic third-party stuff. I can see that being kind of annoying for devs. So it's a lot more work, but yeah, you're also required to have achievements. That's odd. Oh, if it has achievements on other stores. Okay. So essentially is enforcing parity with other stores, I guess. That's interesting.
Yeah. By the way, Kai is in the chat. Kairos on our Discord server. He says Epic's percent is 12, assuming the 88% in the PR is instructive. Oh, so he was just clarifying the percent that you were saying earlier. So you're correct.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Apparently, Epic Games has also said they've partnered with AIRC, International Age Rating Coalition, to help obtain ratings where they're required. It costs nothing, apparently, if you're publishing on Epic Games. I don't know how much that costs normally, so I wonder how much of the $100 fee essentially that is. That would be quite nice, actually.
Oh no, Post is also in the chat. He says, oh no, did I walk in on talking about Epic Store? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we have a party now.
Yeah. As well, they have more prohibited content, legal content. Yeah, I hope that'd be not allowed. Things like that. Blah blah. Fake games is one of them. I don't know what that exactly means, but interesting. Deceptive practices. What does that mean? What does that mean for certain types of loot boxes? I wonder. I don't know. I don't know how they're like what they mean by deceptive practices. They have a page that you can read more about it, but I'm not going to do that right now. And of course, they're required to have a game quality check. Must download, install, launch, and function consistently with assets and descriptions provided on the game page. So essentially, making sure it functions normally and whatnot. So yeah, that's interesting. We're definitely going to see a lot more games on the Epic Games Store. I think I don't know what like the state of Epic Games Store is, how popular it is, if they're growing as fast as they like to grow, what features people like about Epic Games Store. Well, it's kind of featureless, but what features people want in the Epic Games Store. So I don't know if this is like a desperation play, it's like let's get more games, or more like actually, this is kind of increasing the amount of features, right? Because you have achievements and things like that are required. They're features that already exist in Epic Games that are now required to be implemented, which is interesting. So yeah, I'm not really. I don't know if I really have a great opinion on this one. I'm just not educated enough on how Epic Games is doing and what they're actually trying to do here. So yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. Any other gaming news, or is that it? Mostly.
That is it for me.
Sweet. And by the way, for the people who just showed up, we are just in our news segment, which we've been taking a long time to talk about, which is fine because Ben's not here, so we've got 2/3 of the time, or 2/3 of the people for the same amount of time. Okay, so the only news I've got is that the Oscars happened and no one knew it.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I did see that.
The Oscars happened Was it yesterday? Is today Monday?
Yesterday, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, today's Monday. Okay, so it happened yesterday. I was in the depths of editing, so I had no idea that they actually happened. Yeah, post. I'm in the same boat as you. I had no idea that was happening. Um, but here's the interesting thing. I don't think many people knew that it was happening. So, you know that we cover the Oscars every year quite in depth. We usually have a very long episode where we review, like, from the music and film perspective, practically every Oscar movie. Um, but Post said, has it really been a year since the slap? Yeah, it has, right? It doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, I was thinking that I remember thinking like, man, I feel like we weren't talking about the Oscars that long ago. And
yeah.
by the way,
Keep
apparently
my
viewership
wife's
is up.
name out, yo. Huh?
Looks like viewership is up apparently.
Oh, it was up, really?
Yeah, by 12%.
Maybe I was so busy I saw literally nothing about it, but
I mean, I also didn't like it. No, it existed until the day before. That's
well, hold on. The year before, though, the viewership was abysmal, so maybe it was an easy bar to clear, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, let me. Is this considered the Oscars 2023? Right, I assume, or is it considered like the Oscars 20? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me look at 2021, and we can compare. Like, is there a dip? Oh no, it went up. Wait, what? The Oscars 2021 saw a steep decline.
Okay.
It's been recovering. It had sub 10 million, and at the moment we're at 18.7 million with this one. So we had a doubling in 2 years. And oh my gosh. So before the 9.85 million run, it was 23.6 million. So they absolutely I don't know what happened.
It tanked
just
really bad.
Shattered. That's crazy.
Well, Hollywood kind of went nuts a little bit, and that no one really liked that. So, so they just logged out basically. Okay, but because I did not know it was happening, and because I did not have time to binge at all, like I usually do a lot of the Oscar movies, I thought I would do something fun for this new segment, which is react live to the winners because I have not looked at them yet. So,
oh, really?
Yes. So I'm just gonna pull it up, and we're gonna learn together who won the Oscars this year. All right, so here it is. I'm what website am I on? I don't even remember. ABC. Okay, this is their list. So let's see here. Best Picture. We have these are the nominees. Who's the winner?
Starting with Best Picture.
Wait.
This is kind of like the opposite way, huh? Oh, is this an old article? Or does it have...
Wait a second. Wait just a minute. Does this not have the winners? That really sucks. Let me see.
Complete winners list on ABC, yeah.
Am I
Why doesn't the Oscars have a website where they have the winners?
This is 2021. Yes, thank you, Post. I'm looking at the 2021 page. Here, let me find the right thing here. Oscars
has
winners.
It if you want to use that.
Say again?
Wikipedia has it if you want to use that.
Yeah, let me do that.
I can send the link if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
I was like, Mank. I saw Mank. And then I was very confused.
If you want to start with Best Picture, it's on the start. If you want to start with we want to say that for last, you scroll down to the bottom. Or not the bottom, but, it's the end.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. Let's see here. But unfortunately, I haven't seen so many of these, so I won't have much reaction other than if I know something particularly about any of these particular films, which I guess goes without saying. Okay.
Winners are in bold for that section.
Let me go all the way to the end here.
Past it. There's, yeah.
Okay. So we've got Best Visual Effects goes to Avatar: The Way of Water. That makes complete sense. It was facing competition from All Quiet on the Western Front, which I assume was SFX or special effects heavy, which is the non-digital variety, right? That's the real life kind of stuff. Post says I can't roll my eyes harder at Avatar 2. Well, you should check out my review for Avatar 2. I might contradict you slightly, but I understand your reaction 100% because it's kind of a typical movie. But yeah, you should check that out. Let's see, The Batman, Black Panther, Top Gun Maverick. Yeah, I think Avatar 2 makes the most sense for that category. I saw many of those films as well. so I can actually compare. Best film editing, Everything Everywhere All at Once. That also makes a lot of sense. It was going up against the Banshees of Inisherin, which I don't even know what that is. Elvis,
I don't know what that is either.
Tar, which I've keep seeing on Letterboxd, and Top Gun Maverick. Okay, well, out of the ones I do know, that makes the most sense. Everything Everywhere All at Once. You should also check out my review for that, which is a fantastic film. Costume design, we've got Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, which I haven't seen, up against Babylon, Elvis, which is probably a more obvious, like, okay, the attire is going to be different because, we're going back in time. If you don't know, a lot of times the best costume award goes to period pieces, like, very often, which makes sense. Yeah. Everything Everywhere All at Once. And Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, which is interesting. Post says, I really wasn't a fan of Everything Everywhere All at Once. I stopped after that girl started to beat people up. That does happen. I'm going to censor the last bit. Well, I can't censor it from the screen, but I'll censor it from my words.
I didn't watch it, so I had no idea what that refers to.
Yeah, there's a little bit of undercutting with humor like that. And if it's not your type of humor, it will just grate on you, and I get that. But yeah, you should check out my review of that if you want to get my more in-depth thoughts before I get dragged down a bunny hole, because it's very easy for me to get dragged down these bunny holes. Best makeup and hairstyling, The Whale, All Quiet on the Western Front, The Batman, Black Panther, Elvis, and The Whale won. Okay. Best cinematography. Now this is something. Can anyone explain to me why Top Gun Maverick does not have a nomination? Not even a nomination for best cinematography. Can someone? It's not like it's not on this list anywhere. It's on the list, but they picked the one thing that it is notable. Where it really shouldn't be anywhere else. Honestly, if we're being completely honest, it shouldn't be on any other list. Except for cinematography. It is the only one that it's not on there for. It is bizarre.
Well, how would you consider any of these? Well, I don't know if you've seen any of these other ones. Would you consider? I was going to ask if you consider them like so exceptional as well.
Some of these other ones? Well, no, Top Gun Maverick is not an exceptional movie. It's just a good movie.
I mean, the cinematography, though.
Oh, yes, the cinematography is exceptional.
Wait, no, sorry. Let me restate what I'm trying to ask.
Okay.
I'm asking in the current nominees. I don't know if you've seen them before, but would you consider any of those like more exceptional?
Oh, okay.
It's just a really good lineup this year or something.
I have not seen any of these actually.
Okay.
So I can't comment on that. I've seen clips from All Quiet on the Western Front. I've seen some things from Elvis. Elvis is very colorful. All Quiet on the Western Front has a very filmic, like classic feel to it. Just from what I've seen. But I wouldn't be able to tell just based off of that. But, I mean, maybe it was facing such tough competition and it didn't make the cut. But it's hard for me to imagine. They had the coolest camera setups for putting these cameras in cockpits. And they had to have the actors partly control the camera to change the framing. This is just novel. Like, just for the novelty of it, it should get a nomination. And then you get these really crazy shots. Unfortunately, they spoiled all the good shots in the trailer, which really sucks. But because when you watch the movie, you're like, oh, all the good shots were in the trailer. I was expecting some surprise, awesome shots, but, but those shots that are in the trailer are, like, really gnarly, awesome shots. And it's kind of crazy. Kai says it's got a couple horrible moments, but I'm probably in the Irving camp on Everything Everywhere. Okay. Okay, I'm not alone. Post says, I agree. I don't understand why it's not nominated. Yeah, it's bizarre. Okay. Best production design. We've got All Quiet on the Western Front. Now, production design, I believe, is a new category. And
what is production design?
I did not read up on like why they did it this way this year. They always change something. It's always controversial. Yeah, production design is so vague, Post says. It's probably because it encompasses a lot of different aspects. It probably encompasses the whole arts department. It's probably what it is.
says the Academy Award for Best Production Design recognizes achievement for art direction in film. The
Yeah.
category's original name was Best Art Direction, but was changed to its current name in 2012 for the. Oh, this is old.
Oh, okay. Huh. I'm behind, apparently.
Yeah. The change resulted from the art directors branch of the Academy being renamed to the designers branch. Blah blah. So okay. So
That's
yeah, that's it.
really strange.
Mhm.
I feel like everyone calls it art direction, the arts department. I feel like that makes more sense. But okay, whatever. Um, so we got All Quiet on the Western Front. So this by the way includes like set design. It includes like props and everything like that. SFX even to some extent gets sort of in the arts department. The arts department is one of the biggest departments on a film set. And the arts director is a very, very important person. So it makes a lot of sense why a war film, right? If you just imagine what's required, I haven't seen it, but if you imagine what's required to make a war film, you can imagine why it might win. Avatar: The Way of Water. So that's going to be more for the 3D play of that arts department, right? So like the character design, the world building and stuff like that. It's kind of weird because we don't like 3D, or sorry, I should say digital film, like, or not digital, animated films, whether 3D or 2D, have weird positionings amongst Academy. Like they don't really make a lot of sense in a lot of these categories. So you have to kind of reinterpret them. Um, Best sound goes to Top Gun Maverick. Why isn't it not like so it won best sound, but it doesn't get a nomination for cinematography? This is insane to me. Although I will say, sound actually does make some sense for it to get a nomination. Whether it wins or not, I'm not really sure if it should or not, because I haven't seen some of these. But the sound of the film, I saw it in the theater, and the sound design is great on Top Gun Maverick. Um, Avatar: Way of Water, eh. Batman, yeah, okay. I don't think there's that much competition on this list. Best original song. Oh, I don't know any of this, I'm sure. But Natu Natu or Natu Natu from RRR? What? Okay.
I don't know what that is.
Um, Up against a lot of random films. Okay, we're gonna skip that one. Best original score. If only Ben were here. It goes to All Quiet on the Western Front by Volker Bertelmann, which I think I've heard vaguely of this person, but I may be wrong. And then up against Babylon, The Banshees of Inisherin, and Everything All Everywhere All at Once, who should not win. Probably shouldn't have been even nominated because it's mostly a pop mix soundtrack made by a band, which is not bad, right? Like in of itself, but it's not like special. It's kind of just poppy.
I wonder, like, can we give? I don't know how they vote, right? I don't know like what the idea is, but are they or should they? Or I don't know. Maybe both. Maybe both questions. Are they or should they consider the role the music plays? So if like pop music is just what it should be, but it's like also really good pop music. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that give it extra credit, even though it's not ain't necessarily anything particularly complicated or like outstanding in terms of like technical ability or anything like that?
Or are you talking about what the Academy is considering?
Yeah, what are they considering, and do you think that is what?
Okay, well, let me. If you haven't been here for the last 2 times we covered the Academy's dumb. So what are they considering is like basically whatever their brains think of in the moment, whatever they vote. A lot of these Academy members, you need to understand, do not even watch all the movies on the list for the categories that they vote for, even though they don't have to vote for every category in order to vote. They could only vote for the categories that they know about, like either that they're in that department and so it can judge them very well, or they've happened to watch all the movies in that film and have a strong opinion about who should win. However, there's a high rate, I think it's something like 90%, of Academy members vote all categories, all of them. And guess what happens?
I've watched.
and the way they do that is they vote for their friends. Okay, so that's like a large chunk of the vote. unless they do know something about it, then you'll start to get more opinions about the specifics. Kai says, I want to see Banshees. It's a Martin McDonagh movie with Colin Farrell and Ken Gleeson. And the last one of those I saw was In Bruges. Cool. Yeah. I don't know much about the film, so I can't really comment about it. But yeah. Post says, WTF, that's so corrupt. Oh, you want to talk about corruption? We talked about corruption a lot on this show. Just hold on to your hats, people. This is a show where we talk about corruption a lot. Anyway, you think that's bad? That's nothing. That's just social club nonsense. Let's see. So, best animated short film. We've got The Boy, the Male, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie McKessie.
Huh? It's the mole, not the male.
Oh, sorry, the mole. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
And what is it up against? That's a very random movie because I have never heard of it, which means as an animated movie.
Like I saw a little clip on YouTube. I was like, oh, I didn't actually. Yeah, I only just found out just now that this was a thing that was like nominated and won.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
It was it was up against The Flying Sailor, never heard of it. Ice Merchants, never heard of it. The Year of Dicks, is that what that says?
That is what that says. I don't really know what that means, but
interesting. An ostrich told me the world is fake, and I think I believe it. Oh, wait, this is short. Animated short. Oh, that's why it's like this. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was like, there's no way this should be like this. Short films, these are all indie films, almost guaranteed. Get your bread, indie people. That's awesome.
Oh, short. Okay, actually, I didn't even realize when you said that. I think you were surprised to say animated. I didn't realize it's just short either.
Best live action short film. So this is live action short, An Irish Goodbye. I will not know these because let me explain to you another corrupt thing if we want to talk about corruption. How do you get to your short to be nominated for an Oscar? Money. It's and when I say money, it's like literally money. Like it's almost explicit because what is the requirement for you to be even considered? You won't be considered unless you have ticket sales at a movie theater. It's a short film. Like, who's going to a movie? So what do you have to do? You have to rent out. This is what every one of these films almost certainly did. They rented out a theater for a day and got their family and friends to come buy tickets to that theater. That's expensive. So, that's part of the thing. Then how do you get people to actually watch your short film in the Academy to actually vote for you for a nomination even? Well, you have to call all your friends and hope that a friend of a friend of a friend knows somebody, because there's so many short films out there, they literally can't possibly watch even all of the ones that are nominatable. So, this is how that works. Okay.
Nice.
Let's see. Best documentary, short subject. Why is this short subject not short film? Okay, whatever. Weird. The Elephant Whispers. Okay. We're gonna skip over that. Best documentary feature. So first gigantic category. We've got Navalny by Daniel Rower, Odessa Ray, blah blah. If I were to guess, this probably has to do with something in Eastern Europe. I am sure.
Yes.
Navalny is a famous person, actually. Let me remind myself. Let's see here. Alexei Navalny. Yes, he was. He's a politician, basically. He's run against Putin in elections. So, Kai says, Irving, I don't know if I believe in Hollywood anymore after this conversation. Listen. Hollywood is not to be believed in. They should.
I
They
think I
should.
think if you just watch the Oscars and see how out of touch it is, it's pretty like I don't know, it's all evident. These people live in a whole new world.
Yeah, there was once upon a time when the Academy had value, but I won't go on that tangent because I've gone on in it before. So check out prior years. Post says Hollywood is accessible. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Okay, best international feature film, All Quiet on the Western Front, which I believe is it a Polish film?
No, it says German right next to
German
it.
film. Okay, German film. Okay, there you go. Best animated feature film. Okay, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, and they have to put Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. They have to name it that because there was another Pinocchio made by Disney the same year.
Wait, there's two Pinocchios in a year?
Yes, there are two
How did this
Pinocchios.
happen? And
Because
what?
Pinocchio is not copyrightable anymore. Because
Oh, wait, they actually went to war on each other. That's actually funny.
So
They're actually just directly competing with the same exact.
yeah, well, Disney
story
lost
type.
this one like drastically because the Disney's Pinocchio is considered to be hot garbage. So
Uh,
I haven't seen it, but yeah. Guillermo del Toro and good Disney. I hate Disney. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. I heard some good things about it, but I've only seen like images from it. I don't really know that much about it. But it's up against Marcel the Shell with shoes on. Funny. Puss in Boots, which I heard a lot of great things about, by the way. I was considering seeing it in theaters and never ended up doing. The Sea Beast by Chris Williams and Turning Red. Turning Red actually is a Pixar movie, no?
it is, yes.
Pixar lost to Guillermo del Toro? This is unheard
It
of.
must be. I believe that is Domi Shi's first feature film.
Interesting.
It's kind of depressing to be like the one who lost, but you know. What it is. She's the one who made she's the one who made the dumpling being consumed by her, like the parents or something like that. I forget. You remember that short film?
Oh yes. Oh, Bao.
Was the parents
I think that's the
yes.
short
Yes.
film called. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I know her name.
Yes. Guillermo del Toro's version is pretty good, very creepy. Yeah, I got that vibe from the stuff that I saw. Kai says went to war, lol. Yeah. Okay. Best adapted screenplay, we've got Women Talking. I've never heard of. It's interesting that
adaptive screenplay, like a screenplay that comes from something else, like another.
It comes from a different source as the core story. Top Gun Maverick is adapted from what?
I guess Top Gun the book. I don't know.
Excuse me. What the heck? That's really random. By the way, this category is kind of BS. I think it should just go away. Like, I don't see like it should just be best or overall screenplay. Like the adaptations that happen to these sources for almost all of these screenplays is drastic. They almost I don't know any of these films mostly. Well, I know some of them, but almost certainly they're adapted like they're based off of some they're loosely based off of some IP that they have to credit because it's loosely based off of it. But it's so loosely based that the screenplay is practically original. If that makes sense.
Wait a minute. So Top Gun. Okay, yeah, this is very strange. Top Gun was inspired not by a book, by an article. An article
there you go.
Titled Top
What did I
Guns.
just say? What did I just say?
Published in a magazine just called California Magazine.
Yeah,
is an article in a magazine, and they decided, hey, let's make a movie about it. I don't know, like, I don't know.
It should just be best original screenplay, and if you adapt something that you actually adapted like more word for word, you should just not be like I mean, the Academy should just not consider that, you know, as because it's not. I mean, it's not as impressive, right? As a screenplay you just created from scratch, which is extremely impressive. Even if it's based loosely off something, writing a screenplay is really tough endeavor. And I love writing, as you know, if you've been on the podcast for long enough. Okay. Best Supporting Actress, Jamie Lee Curtis for Everything Everywhere All at Once. That is... Okay. I really like Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's kind of BS. Like I'm going to call BS on that one. Huh?
Sorry, where were we?
Best Supporting Actress.
Okay.
Like I haven't seen a lot of these other films, so like we got Angela Bassett, Hong Chow, Carrie Condon, and Stephanie Sue or Shu. I'm not sure how you're supposed to pronounce that. For Black Panther, The Whale, The Banshees, and Everything Everywhere, respectively. Um, Actually, first of all, I would probably give it to Stephanie before I give it to Jamie Lee Curtis. That's the first thing. But uh Post is offended. And I'm kind of offended too, like I'm not gonna lie. Because Jamie Lee Curtis's role was just kind of being a meme the whole time, and she was not particularly comedically effective in a personal sense, right? Like the screenplay made her effective, but she didn't bring anything to the role, to me at least, that was anything more than just being surprising that it's Jamie Lee Curtis doing something so ridiculous. And I think that's probably why she won. She's probably extremely popular in Hollywood, I'm sure. Best supporting actor, we've got I'm gonna butcher this as well. K. Hwai Kwan for Everything Everywhere, and he was the dad, I believe, and he was legitimately fantastic. So, unlike Jamie Lee Curtis, so I'm gonna go for this one. Makes a lot more sense to me. Yeah, Post agrees with me. Okay, so we're agreeing on things now, so that's good. Best actress. All right, big categories. Michelle Yeoh for Everything Ever. What? I mean, she was really good. Let's see what the competition was. So Anna de Armas for Blonde, Kate Blanchett for Tar, Andrea Riseborough for To Leslie, which didn't get nominated for anything else. Neither did Blonde, by the way. Michelle Williams for The Fablemans, which I've vaguely heard of. Maybe the competition wasn't so bad. So maybe it makes sense. I don't know. Maybe it makes sense. Because she did do good. It's just not like... I mean, yeah, I agree with Post. Like, the husband actually was much better. So, let's see. Best actor, we've got Brendan Fraser for The Whale, which I don't know anything about The Whale other than pretty much that it's a character drama. Character dramas are highly disproportionately going to get the Best Actor award, right? So think about Leo's actual Oscar win, right? It was for The Revenant. It's essentially him alone eating up all the screen time, right? So movies like that, where you have your main character just eating the whole screen time for whatever reason, usually because it's an Oscar bait movie, and they want to attract. They make an Oscar bait. They make a movie that will attract an actor who's really prominent, who's really good at acting, right? That wants to win an Oscar. And a lot of actors will try to do like one of those every 1 to 2 years to try to get their hat in the ring, basically, or at least the respectable actors, right? The ones who are really really good. So I don't know Brendan Fraser, but The Whale is a character drama. I do know that much. So if he eats the whole screen time, I wouldn't be surprised, because that's how this works. Okay. And he was up against for Elvis. Okay, we get the point. All right, Best Director. Let's see, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert for Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's probably really predictable. The two Daniels
it's
are
no longer on the screen, by the way.
Oh, my bad. The two Daniels are longtime music video directors, by the way. They did a famous one with Turn Down for What? Yeah, that's what it is. They did that music video, which is kind of crazy. If you've seen that music video, the movie makes a lot of sense.
That was an old music video. Wow.
Yes. Says, oh no. Yeah. Best Picture goes to Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I could have told you. With, like 100 days notice that was going to be the case. Very predictable. Movies with popular appeal amongst both Hollywood and the public, will do really well, likely in all categories. And then once it starts doing well in the other categories, it almost certainly will be Best Picture. If you want to know the criteria for predicting Oscar success, you can go check out the episode, I think from last year or maybe the year before, about me talking about what makes an Oscar bait movie, if you're curious about that. So there you go. I didn't know the results until now. You didn't know the results until now, almost certainly. But now we both do know. And do we care? I don't really know if we care. I want to care. Let me make this disclaimer. I really, really want to care, about the Academy, because I'm not opposed to these sort of guilds and institutions that sort of crop up out of a respect for the field that they're in, right? But they are so useless these days, so out of touch, so boring. I just don't. I want to care. I can't bring myself to care, guys. I just can't. Bo says, "Yeah, we have the internet now." You know what? That's not even really it for me. It's not. I want the respected people of the field to tell me what they find to be the most interesting or good stuff that they've encountered. But it doesn't even work that way anymore because no one cares about the voting. The Academy members are so lazy. I mean, we just devolved so much as an industry that we're in a place where, it means nothing for you to be voted by your peers. There's no respect for the process anymore. So, then it'll continue to be irrelevant. So long as, apparently they grow viewership. I'm not sure why, but maybe it was the slap. Maybe everyone was like, "Is the slap going to happen again?" Who knows?
It was all a marketing play from the start.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my new segment. That was actually really long. I forgot how many categories there were. But now we're going to go into arguing with Reddit. So I will stop bothering you on that. Post says peers, i.e. other celebrities and absurdly rich people. Yeah, pretty much. And the thing is, those people used to be able to like, not completely, but partly at least, understand the average person. And by the way, it's only beneficial for them to understand the average person, right? Because they have to market themselves for films. And the people who buy films, buy tickets, buy films themselves, are the average person. But they are so self-focused at this point that they will drag the film industry down to zero. Literally, movies will end at this pace because they just are so self-centered that they will destroy their own industry as a result. And that's really sad. Post says they're so disconnected, it's pathetic. I agree. Okay. Yes, so enough ranting about Hollywood for now. I do that all the time. So time to get into our first real segment here, which is Arguing with Reddit. So if you're watching this segment, this is in post. This is a live show. And what we do is we film these in segments. So, stick around if you're watching live. But if you are watching in post, definitely check out our next segment. So that's the disclaimer. See you on the other side of the transition. Here we go.
Mixed Media Gaming.
Welcome to Mixed Media Gaming. Today we'll be doing our Arguing with Reddit segment, where I'll be taking a look at some Reddit hot takes that one of which I haven't seen before, two of which I have seen before, and I'll be react to them, disagreeing or agreeing. I guess we'll see. Today, one of our co-hosts isn't here today. Ben isn't here. Which is the reason why I've seen two of them. Usually, both of my co-hosts will pick one for me, but since he's not here, I picked two for myself. So, I guess we should introduce ourselves. So, my name is David Nestor. I'm a game developer and 3D modeler.
And my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur and a company called Ariella based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
Yeah. All right. So, cool. I guess let's get started.
Okay. Excuse me. So we'll sandwich these with yours and then the one that producer wife found.
All right.
And so this first one is the second one you posted in our Discord chat. I'm gonna
What is
explain it.
that? What is it called?
Let's see. I got it pulled it up already. So it says, "Is there a site where indie gamers can match/partner to work together?"
Okay, so you might be saying, based on the introduction, you might be saying, where is the hot take in this one? Well, look, I decided to go a little bit off of the standard rules, I guess, of arguing with Reddit. I'm not going to actually tell you a site though. The purpose is a bit different. I'm reacting to just the idea of asking the question and what that means, and whether that should be something you're even looking for. So, I've been in many communities where it's very common for people to, or encouraged for people to, ask for partners and help on their indie games and stuff like that. And the idea is, of course, great, right? Two heads work better and faster than one, generally speaking. So it makes a lot of sense. But here's the issue: if you're an indie game developer, say a solo developer, and you're just starting off, you don't really have money to offer. Maybe you can offer the classic revenue share, which if you're an indie game developer who's been around these spaces, this probably sounds like a cursed word to you, but revenue share or something similar like that, or just nothing and it's just all a hobby project. Well, here's the issue: the types of people who are indie game developers who are doing solo work tend to be incredibly self-driven and don't want part of your thing, unfortunately. Okay, that's not to say that no one will be interested in joining your thing, but they will likely. You have to be willing to both of you have to be willing to work as a pair, making compromises, which you might think is fine at first, but during development you might be thinking, I'd rather have done this myself because this was my idea originally, and I had a very specific vision for it, and this vision is not being seen through as I'd like it to be. It's kind of like this, probably a similar issue in just larger projects in general. Say even with movies, right? It's like
any collaborative
the director.
art.
Yeah, there's this classic example of the director rubbing against whoever's funding him, like the publisher, right? And the publisher's like, I need this thing in the movie or something like that, or I don't like this thing. It's not very good. I don't think people will like that. And directors will like, oh, I'm the creative genius here. This is my idea and whatever, and this is what I think should be in it. And you have that sort of issue. And for people, it's not going to be as big as an issue for I don't know, intern number 3 if his wishes aren't met, right? Because he's intern number 3 and he just probably doesn't have he's not he doesn't expect to have any sort of great say in what goes on, and that's also not why he's even there. Probably he's not there to make to do that kind of stuff. He might not even wish. He might not even be a creative type of person. He might just want to be in the industry, but he might not be the one who wants to call the shots anyways, right? Mm-hmm. But when you have two people who were solo devs and combine to become a team, well, you have two people who are probably very strongly willed, creatively speaking, and you might get into this issue where you both have creative differences, and you have to figure out how to compromise, and that might just end up on whoever's idea was originally to be, feel kind of bad. Now, I have worked in teams, and this isn't necessarily the case. But every team I've worked in has been not my idea. So there's also that. So maybe that, I don't have as big of an issue with, saying, let's change this or whatever, because it wasn't my idea to begin with. And so changing the idea creatively, it was never my, baby to begin with and whatnot. So be wary if you decide to actually have a partner in your thing. And note that a lot of people will be around for a little bit. I've experienced this a lot. A lot of people will say, I'm really into this idea. Yeah, it's not my idea, but I'm really into it. Let me join. And they'll be gone a week later, a month later, whatever it is, right? Let alone potentially years for some game, right? You need to somehow they have to stay motivated to do it. And if they're very creative themselves, they might be saying, why am I even here? I can do my own thing, right? It's very hard to stay motivated even on your own game for years, right? So expecting someone else to do it for no money and, I don't know, I guess the idea of revenue share, which is mostly a myth, that's got to be kind of tough. And for people who are offering people partnerships, do not have. Here's my advice. I've never done this before, but here's my thought. If I'm looking for partnership, you have to show me something that makes me want to partner with you enough, right? Where I'm like, I don't want to do my own thing, or enough where I will even, be down with taking, being down with you leading the project creatively almost entirely,
Yeah.
And what might that be? It is not revenue share. Please, no one cares, okay? That's not a thing that people care about. If you're not offering like a fixed pay, revenue share is almost useless. Why? Because most video games just don't make money. That's just how it is. So,
or the best actually is a combined offer, right? Is like,
that also would work. Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much, of a normal salary, and then, but you say, but if this turns out well, which, by the way, if you're paying people, the chances it'll turn out well, probably a lot higher because now you are incredibly incentivized to make up the money you've lost. And well, it also incentivizes the person to work for you well because and not leave because, well, they're making revenue, right, and they're making money from you. So yeah, adding revenue share on top definitely helps.
So Post says, by the way, the site is called Getting a Job at a Studio and Making Friends. Savage. He also says, having two creative leads is a bad idea unless they are very much on the same wavelength. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. My solution to needing to pay people for work, do all the work myself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely kind of lonely, and what's up?
I was going to say it works too. It depends on the scale of what you're doing.
What do you mean?
Like you can't if you're gonna try if your goal is to make a AAA success, right? Like you actually just need people. There's no.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to make I don't know. Yeah, the finals.
Yeah, exactly.
Need more than one person. But yeah,
just like films. I mean, I wish I could just do, but like the scale gets bad like really quickly. Like if it's not just like a little simple sort of run and gun type of short film. Yeah, it's gonna require me to have a team.
Yeah, you just don't have all the skills, and it would take forever to get all the skills, and if you have the skills, it would take forever to do all the things too.
Yeah.
So yeah, but so revenue share, no one wants that, and I assure you, people. Well, okay, I shouldn't assure you, but a lot of times people will just leave your project. Now, if you're able to find the rare person who's just willing to do a whole ton of work for no reason, well, not no reason, but to see the project through, and that's all they need, right? Then that's great. It's just going to be pretty rare, and if you would like to try to find partners, go ahead, but just go with the idea that it might not work out. Person might end up leaving. And I wouldn't say necessarily let that discourage you. If you really want a partner, keep doing that over and over and over again. But don't expect it to be on the first or second or third try where you'll find a collaborator. Kai said, I think the most collaboration I've ever seen with the same person is the friend from Missing Cats. We're on our 4th Metroidvania month now. Aside from the most frequent collaborations, our mutual what?
Beta tester ships.
Oh, beta tester ships.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Beta tester ships. I thought it was like one entire word. I was so confused. I was like, B-state or ships? What is this? Yeah. Beta tester ships. Okay, gotcha. But game jams are like there's like a very clear goal and it's short term. That's the big thing too, right? It's relatively short term. It's Metroidvania a month, not Metroidvania 5 years, right? So it's a lot easier to keep up that motivation with someone for a short amount of time. I guess really what I'm mostly talking about are things that are you intend to be big, like you want that are like really important to you, like ideas you've had of like the perfect game or something like that, in your mind, like, oh, this is really what I want to make or something, rather than like a constrained time type of thing. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
Cool. Okay, so the next one is from producer wife Steph, my wife. If you
haven't seen this one before.
Yeah, so you haven't seen this one before. So this one, let's see here.
Oh boy, the
This
title
one's
is. You can go ahead and read it if you want. I don't know.
okay, yeah. So this one says most gamers don't care if a game has accessibility options. The campaign against these options is fueled by a
Okay.
loud minority of idiots. And this is from r/unpopular opinion.
Okay. Most gamers don't care. I mean, uh, well, I mean, I think by definition, the average gamer doesn't need accessibility options, right? So,
It's framed very
um,
weirdly. This thought.
yeah, the campaign against these options. Oh, it's saying that people who are against them don't make sense. Is that what's happening? It's not people
I
that are
think that's
for
what
them.
the point is. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, the idea is like it's like I've actually never heard of this. Oh no, wait, that's funny. I've done this before.
What?
Okay, to be clear, I haven't campaigned against accessibility options in general. I haven't said like we should have no brightness settings. Okay, no. That's what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. Have your colorblindness. I've used colorblindness settings because I'm colorblind, so that works out. Have your whatever text to speech settings. That's fine. I don't. It's fine. The thing that I said. Was an issue was when I was watching a podcast. I mentioned this before on this podcast. Watching a podcast, I don't remember which one. The GDC's podcast. They had like a podcast like after it ended or something like that, like maybe 1 or 2 years ago or something like that. I think it's 2 years ago, and they were talking about how like I don't know. Usually when I listen to GDC talk or something like that, I'm like, yeah, this makes sense to me. It's like pretty much I usually just think like yeah, they're just saying facts. Like this would make sense, or they're saying things that are like, here are some numbers. It's like, I mean, maybe the way you're interpreting stats are wrong, but at least the numbers are correct, things like that. But it surprised me that I heard something that just seemed wrong to me. So in the podcast, they were like, it was an accessibility focused podcast. I was like, oh, I mean, listen to that. I'm curious what they have to say. And it said something like, well, in games like, they should always have like easier modes in games, for people who have a hard time playing them. Which I think sounds fairly nice when you just think about it, like for a moment. But then you consider things like, I think one of the examples might have been like, yeah, why not have an easier mode in like Dark Souls, or a mode where like you can't die or something like that, like just like easier modes, things like that, right? Well, the issue is like, okay, what happens if you have like a movie, right? And the movie is what's a war movie?
I couldn't already think of an example that parallels. Like, what if you have a movie with a lot of flashing that causes?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but yeah, that works. I was thinking like you have like a war movie, right? And there's someone who like is say like has like it was actually been in a war and has like PTSD and is not healthy for him to watch that movie, right?
Mm.
So you don't just not make the movie, or you don't take the movie and remove the war parts out of it and make like war movie with no gun or something like that. You just make the movie and you say, hey, this is not for everybody, right? This is a war movie. Some people just can't watch this movie, I mean the same thing with like horror movies, right? Probably shouldn't have like your 3-year-old watching horror movies and stuff like that, right? Probably not the greatest idea. It's just not for everybody. And the same thing I would consider with Dark Souls, right? It's like, yeah, you could make Dark Souls but easier, right? But it's like, how does this game even work anymore? like isn't that the point? The point is part of the point is that it's very challenging, right? And getting over that challenge is very satisfying for some people, not for everybody, but for some people, some people can't actually get over that challenge, which is fair enough. But for people who can, getting over that incredible challenge is very satisfying.
Yeah,
You might be saying like, well, okay, but like, what people can't get over that challenge, right? It's not that hard to give players more health, right? It's a simple number tweak in code and stuff like that, right? Just simple add another UI option that just says easy instead of like, I don't know, whatever options there might be and stuff like that. Well, then you have this like more complicated topic of like, I've talked about this before as well, of the fact that players will sometimes shoot themselves in the foot, where giving players the like infinite options is not necessarily a good idea. So a lot of people might consider themselves by Dark Souls and might be like, well, I know this game's really hard. Why play on the easiest mode or whatever? Assuming we add a easier tier, right? Say play on the easiest mode because this game's pretty hard and I don't really enjoy hard games.
Mm-hmm.
how will you? Well, first off, how will you ever know if you enjoy hard games if you just keep doing that? And secondly, it's like the the developer is telling you the peak way to play the game is in the normal mode, probably, right? This is how it is intended to be played, right? So when you start messing around with things, right? It's like you could be right that you enjoy it more, but at the same time, you have a whole team of game designers telling you that is not correct. that is not the premium way to enjoy it. It's like if someone, I don't know, you say you bring a movie home on Blu-ray, right? You put the disc in or whatever, right? And maybe your TV has like a Blu-ray or a movie mode, right? A lot of TVs have that for colors, right? Put on a movie mode, right? Maybe it's bad. I have no idea how well those actually work, right? But you decide, as a uneducated non-movie person, let me mess with the saturation and the contrast myself until it looks right. I mean, it's possible you get it right, right? Also, the very big possibility that you're shooting yourself in the foot, and you might even think like, oh yeah, I love like the hyper saturation. I love colors. I love colors. But little did you know, this game is meant to be this movie is meant to be desaturated. That is how it's supposed to look. Okay, it's just part of the tone of the movie, right? Maybe you just don't understand, right? And you shot yourself in the foot. It's an innocent mistake to make, but it's a mistake that you can make. And so, unless you're like, I don't know, a color grader who knows what this movie is supposed to be like, right?
Yeah.
Or something like that, I would not recommend with tweaking the values on your TV, other than like presets like movie or something like that, or standard, whatever
Even
presets
then,
are there. Yeah, even then, I don't know. But I'm skeptical, but
Yeah.
other than that, I wouldn't really do that, But yeah, I think that's a very similar thing where it's like you're giving players the option to like tweak it in a way that you've already considered is not the best way. And you can do that, right? Because games do have easy, medium, and hard modes and whatever. But I think that's like a sort of like saying like, yeah, one of these is optimal, but like these two are not that bad. You know what I'm saying? Like there are actually people who would. These are 4 people. So there are people who would actually enjoy these easier or harder modes than this normal mode, right? Or sometimes it's not is for a second playthrough, someone beats it on normal and they want to be on a hard now. You see it commonly with like the just like in Overcooked, for example. If you beat the game, I think if you 3-star every level, it opens up the option to 4-star every level or something like that, right? It might be a different game. I think it's Overcooked though. And so it sort of adds a harder mode, right? It's more like just extra content, right? It's like maybe it's not the best way to play it, but it's more at least, it's better than nothing, right? And fair enough, right? So yeah, or gives you something to achieve. So yeah, I think sometimes adding accessibility options shoots people in the foot. Now, going back to the Reddit post, I don't know who these people are, these loud minority people are, because I feel like I don't know if I'm one of them that this person's referring to, because I don't campaign against them. I don't campaign against them in general, right? Or actually, I don't know if you read the whole description or the whole thing. Does it like elaborate on who we're talking about?
It says most gamers I've interacted with don't care if games have options to make a game more accessible. Some even want them even if they don't need the options themselves. Wait, it seems to contradict. What?
I've interacted with don't care if games have options if they don't need it. Well, yeah, that's correct, because he's saying that's a minority of people who are saying that. So he's saying most people don't care, but there are some who do. Then it says people who complain about it's cheating or wait, this is me. The game is meant to be hard. That is me.
Oh, that's literally what you were just saying.
And this is the true argument Reddit experience. We gotta have a proper argument.
Yeah, this is good.
This is directly contradictory. Or who cares if minority people can't play? Or such a tiny minority become they should not listen to those weirdos. Okay. Firstly, so we've already gone over the game is meant to be hard. But now we've opened up a little box. You said it's cheating. And you said that is not a appropriate thing to say. But I argue it is, because there are games like Fortnite, for example, where you can play with an accessibility option that makes it so that all sound, like it's, I guess, for people who have hardness of hearing or deaf and stuff like that, if you can play it such that how do I explain it? A little icon appears. Let's say someone shoots or is walking around you. Normally if you have the ability to hear like fine or whatever, you just hear it, right? You hear that happening around you, and that gives you some some awareness of your situation spatially, right? But some people can't hear very well, and so what they do is they have an option that gives you a little icon showing you the direction a noise is coming from, right? Which seems to make sense because like some people can't hear. But it means that the meta is to turn that on, regardless of whether you can hear or not, like well or not, right? Because it is way easier to see an icon that shows you exactly the exactly direction than to guess based on stereo audio, right? Because stereo audio is like it's not that it's not like, it's only two two directions, right? You can do quite a bit of fooling your ears, but at the end of the day, it's still only two directions of hearing. So it's hard to get that exact like. He's exactly 14 degrees to my left, right? You're not going to get that with headphones. But with the icon, you can see he is exactly 14 degrees to my left. You know exactly where he is, which means that anyone walks around you, like it's post that it's almost a wall hack. Like you just know, like it's kind of weird, I don't actually like that in games. I don't think that should be a thing. And why? Because it is cheating. I would consider.
Well, let me just give an example that will blow this person out of the water. So basketball is a game, literally, right? You can play basketball. I'm not tall at all. I cannot. I can't. I mean, you could create a league for me, right? Where for short people, and you could create a league for short people, and maybe it would be good or not good depending on the situation to do that. Maybe it's worth it or not worth it to do that. But if the hoop dropped every time I had the ball in my hand to be a more reasonable height for me, that would be fair to everyone else who's competing at the high level, right? So I would say it's kind of a similar situation. It's not a similar situation; it's the same exact situation. You wouldn't say the NBA. You need to create an easy mode, accessibility options that like make it easier.
Well, the thing is, they do have like a league for people with disabilities, right? It's just they just don't. Yes. It's just separate, right? So I actually wouldn't have an issue if you had people who play. You wouldn't have an issue with people who use the footstep indicator and general sound indicator in Fortnite if it was just them in their own lobby, right? That wouldn't really be an issue. My guess is might not be enough people who do that to warrant making it its own lobby or something like that. And you'd also have to do that for like every type of like advantage, right? It's kind of strange. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I mean, I definitely feel kind of bad, right? It's like, well, I don't know. Here's the thing, because you have to weigh the pros and cons here. And it's purely like a non. Let's separate the idea that video games are art, right, and separate the idea of like there's like a best version of this art or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of like appeasing the most people, making most people have fun, right? Which is better? Is it better to have this weird sort of like sound indicator, or is it better that it's just not a thing and people who have hardness of hearing just can't access that part of the game? Because on one hand, you've changed the game for literally everybody. Like if you add sound indicators, and people who don't even know this exists, by the way, are essentially getting like Post put it, almost like wall hacked. Like not quite as good, I guess, but almost wall hacked, right? You don't know the distance they are, but you know the direction. It's okay, so you've half the puzzle done. Although no, you do know the direction, I think, because of distance. Because I think it might get like the indicator might get bigger when you get closer. So I mean, there's that. But yeah, more a pseudo wall hack, right? Kind of disturbs everybody because only one person has to use it, and it's essentially as if they have, and who doesn't actually have like a disability, and then they have an unfair advantage, right? But then on the other hand, it's like if you just don't do that, then it's like there is that minority of people who can't play as well, but it's like far less people and doesn't ruin the integrity of the game,
Yeah. Cool.
So, yeah.
Sweet. All right. Last topic?
Sure. Post said, I wonder if was an experiment. It seems like Epic would know better. I would say it's a problem if they just standardize it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's a long experiment. It was an experiment. And a very large game to experiment on, right? It's kind of risky, I guess, in a way. But I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the last one.
Sure. Oh yeah, this is mine. I forgot. From r/gaming, gamers today expect too much. Remember when Halo 2 came out and that was it? Multiplayer never changed. We had the same maps, same guns, no DLC, and we loved it. We played it for years. Now, if you don't get 8 new guns a month, the game is trash. Maybe I'm just old. Interesting. So, what's interesting is I remember seeing a clip of something, and it was talking about how Valorant it launched with 4 maps, right? And then they, well, it's not from the video. I knew this happened because I played Valorant. So I started with 4 maps. They added 2, then removed 1, and added another one, then removed another one, or something like that. So it's like 5 or 6 maps. Like they made maps. There's like still only like 5 or 6 in it, or something like that. And it started with 4, right? They might have added the original one back. I don't know what happened, but whatever happened, very strange. And people were like, why aren't there more maps? Right? It's been like, it's been like so long, or whatever. Look at CS:GO, and it's like a trillion maps, right? Relatively speaking, more than 6 for sure. But things I never really had a big issue with that. I was like, this still is fun. It doesn't feel like it feels actually kind of good that I get to master these maps. It's like it's like repetitive enough. It's not too repetitive where I'm like, this is the same map over and over again. Which sometimes out of bad luck you could get the same map over and over again. But oftentimes it's just like I played this before. I'm getting to know it better and better. I would actually credit Valorant with that. And I didn't have Dust 2 syndrome like CSGO, where if you play casual, you are 100% playing Dust 2 every single time, which is painful. But, yeah. Now, I don't know if... I think part of the thing is like, well, back in the day, Halo 2... When did Halo 2 come out? Halo 2 release date. Halo 2 came out in 2004. Okay? Halo 2 came. This means almost certainly Halo 2 came on a disc.
2 decades ago.
Halo 2 came on a disc. Okay,
yeah.
You cannot update disc games like this. Typically, okay, most of these games are not connected like this. I don't actually know if Halo 2 had updates, internet-based updates. But that definitely wasn't a particular common thing in the era. Okay, this wasn't a common thing for a long time. So there's at least the idea of like we're not capable of adding these things on a technological standpoint, right? So they couldn't have possibly requested the new guns. But now maybe it's more of like people have tasted like the sweetness of things getting added, of live service games and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, every game has to be like this, right? I don't know how widespread this is. I remember hearing about it in Valorant, but a lot of other games I feel like people don't like cry too much about like no added content, right? It's like the game is done or it is almost finished, right? And that's just how it is. But the thing is, with Valorant, I guess you could say that it never is not it's not a finished game. They keep adding agents and stuff like that, right? So it's just they don't add maps. That is the issue that people have, So yeah, I mean, like Kai said, he said cartridges and CDs without internet were a blessing. Yeah, in some sense, because the inability to update means that the game has to actually be complete and function, like on the first release. You don't have the opportunity to release Cyberpunk 2077 in broken state. It would just be good, and that's it. Or if it's broken, then it's broken forever, and the company like loses a mad amount of reputation and probably potentially money. So,
yeah. By the way, it turns out that Halo 2 did have a DLC, which is what people were pointing out in the responses.
Is it? But there was CD DLC where you buy a CD and you just
that's probably what it was. Yeah.
So it wasn't like, we're ignoring the Halo 2 map pack DLC then. We probably never played Halo 2. That's funny.
Yeah. Bad Company 2. Actually, that's a lot newer of a game.
No, I think you could. Bad Company 2, it's definitely newer. It's definitely newer. It's like,
but I'm pretty sure like Battlefield Vietnam, which is a DLC for Bad Company 2. I'm pretty sure like most people bought the CD for that. You know?
Mm-hmm. Battlefield Bad Company 2 came out in 2008, so 4 years later. Not actually as. Oh yeah, because Battlefield 3 came out in 2010. Wait, Bad Company 1 came out in 2008. So 2 probably came out in 2009, and 3 and 10, something like that. I didn't actually know there were such back-to-back releases. Interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if people expect too much. I think, yeah, I guess my hot take is that game devs typically aren't paid enough. So I guess you could say for the money they're paid. I guess maybe people expect too much because they were getting paid by inflation for what they did a lot more in the past times per sale. So I guess it's that. But I don't know if demands are increasing or more like we've been shipped a not finished game and we just want more things in the not finished game because it's not finished type thing, you know?
Yeah. Cool.
The map pack came out 4 years later. That's wild.
Yeah, that is pretty wild.
That is weird. Okay.
Yeah. Well, there was here, if I remember correctly from my youth, older versions of a game had longer longevity because, you know, so like you just take the average gamer's age, right? Mm-hmm. Most gamers were not able to buy their own games, if you get what I mean.
Right.
You know, earlier on in the gaming saga. No,
that was 2004. This is technically still late, but you know,
yeah, that's true.
This is early PC gaming, I guess.
But I'm saying there might have been a larger audience that they had to appease for longer with an older game, or like they knew they could appease because they didn't get the newer game, so they're just getting the DLC for the older game. DLC is cheaper; it's $20, right, or something.
Well, here's the thing: if Halo 2's DLC came out in 2008, Halo 3 came out in 2007, so.
Yeah, right before. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of strange, but yeah, I wonder if they backported some maps. That'd be interesting. That'd be very efficient use of funds.
It would have been cool. It's good advertising too, by the way.
It's also strange because typically people, you know, like is like an idea of like make the old game deprecated, right? So it'd be strange to want to keep the old game alive because that cuts from your sales to your new game, right?
Yeah, that is the weird part. Well, unless, like I said, like you don't expect there's a population of Halo 2 players you don't expect to transfer because of the cost barrier, and then so you just nab the little that you can. I guess I don't know.
If Halo 2 came out 20 years later, would it still be well received? That's a
hot take.
I've never played Halo 2. You know what's funny? I played Halo a really singular time. I played Halo one time, okay, only. I played Halo Reach, I think it was. When did that come out? Halo Reach. 2010. I played Halo Reach at a friend's house, I think one singular time or something like that. And that is the extent to which I play Halo. I never thought it was too interesting, to be honest. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't really saw I actually don't even know what it's critically acclaimed for, to be honest. But yeah, it just I didn't get it. But maybe I don't know. Maybe isn't the Halo Infinite multiplayer is free. I guess I could try that. I guess. And so that goes. The campaign, interesting model. The campaign is not free, so that's a weird model.
Yeah. Bo says they were all fun, but the multiplayer is super outdated nowadays. It was awesome for its multiplayer, but yeah, Halo Infinite is
yeah, I heard the campaign, so they didn't get good reviews. So yeah, which is strange. That's the thing you have to pay for. It's also weird because is Halo more known for single player or multiplayer? Because typically I think of it as
I thought it was both. I thought there was
I think it's like good for both, but I don't know. I typically think of it as a multiplayer game, but I guess it's just both. Yeah.
No, people are really into the campaign. Really.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I haven't played either, so I can't comment on it either.
Right.
Well, I actually have. But like same as you. Like I've played it like briefly, like at a friend's house. Okay. That's it. So you want to take us away to the next segment?
Sure. Thank you for watching the gaming segment of the Mixed Media Podcast. If you want to see more arguing with Reddit or me talking about random topics, or me reviewing certain games and whatnot, then make sure you subscribe or follow or however you do it on whatever platform you are on to the Mixed Media Podcast. And yeah, if you're watching live, we'll be moving on to the movie topic segment where everyone will be talking about something about SVB. I don't know how that quite interacts with the movies. We'll find out. We'll find out. We'll find out. And if you're not watching live and you're watching on the VOD, then yeah, thanks for watching, and make sure you stay tuned for that SVP episode. And SVB is a Silicon Valley Bank, which just collapsed like March 10th, I think, or something like that. So, yeah.
Yep.
Thanks for watching.
Sweet. All right, here we go.
Mixed Media Movies.
Okay, awkwardly left the chat on by accident, so you saw the chat come over the transition. But welcome back to Mixed Media. This is our movie segment, and today, instead of talking about strictly creative topics or like business topics directly related to movies, I'm going to be talking about macrofinance. But before we jump into that, we should introduce ourselves again. So, go back over to this view here. My name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company called Ariella, based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
And I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a game developer and 3D modeler.
Sweet. And Ben, who is usually with us, who is our resident musician and composer, he is out for today, and hopefully he'll be back next week. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about what has been huge news to the normies of the world, because a lot of us on our Discord, a lot of us listen to this podcast, we're like strictly artists, right? Well, not me. I'm actually like really, really deeply into finance, and I've talked about finance before on the show, maybe 2 or 3 times. And the reason I talk about it, before we get into the specifics of the topic itself, the reason I talk about it is because you, as an artist, are more entrepreneur than the average person. Your life depends on your entrepreneurship way more than the average person. However, you happen to be, on average, less inclined to care about finances, which is kind of a problem. My number one goal with almost everything I talk about art on this channel, on my own channel, is to give artists the best chance they can possibly have at both being good at what they do. So you need to be good artists. Like, there's no way around that, right? Like, you can't just you can't just expect to be successful just by knowing the finance side.
Well, there are ways, but
well, yeah, there there are methods, but we don't want to do those methods, right? We want to be actually good at what we do, and care deeply as much as we can about what we're doing. Because for me, what we do is, somewhat sacred, right? So we should care about what we're doing. But at the same time, we also have to be good business people, because and it doesn't even matter whether or not you have a job in the field. That's not even particularly relevant. And I'm going to say something scary right now, but you need to hold on, because this is important. You, as an artist, are the first on the chopping block. You may not have lived through financial difficulties before. Neither have I. I mean, I've lived through 2008, but I was so young that, it didn't really affect I didn't have personal finances to worry about, right? That was for my parents to worry about. But so I remember that. I remember what that was like, from a child's perspective. But as an adult now, I am on my own, and I own my own company. I own my own job. But even if you work for a game studio, you work for, a film studio, you work for a music studio, no matter what, you are much more likely to be on the chopping block when financials go south on the macroeconomic level, on the worldwide and national level of the economy. When that starts to go south, art tends to get killed. It's something I thought about a lot before, because I went to school for computer engineering. I did that, and I pushed through that painfully, honestly. um, uh, for the sake of economics, right? Like, I was told that this is the only way to do things. It's not true, actually. It's one of the reasons I want to talk about these things so much on the channel. It's not true that you actually need to take up some field that is more lucrative in order to be successful. It's certainly not true. However, there is some truth to the idea that in hard times, those particular fields tend to be more stable. So hopefully I haven't scared you too much away, and hopefully I can give you some words of not financial advice. Because I am not a financial advisor. I do not know your personal financial situation. Don't sue me, bro. Hashtag not financial advice. But these are words that you can listen to and make your own decisions about. So there you go. Okay, and I'll probably be saying that throughout, just to make sure that people are on the same page. This is just one man's opinion. Okay, but I will say...
You should have a giant thing on the screen. It's just like, not financial advice, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. I cannot legally give out financial advice. I am not licensed to do so. Anyway, okay, let's start with I'm going to put certain things forward because a lot of people probably are new to the podcast, probably don't know this, but a lot of the reason I was able to make my own company was not from just saving money. It was from being pretty good at finances. This is the 100th chat, apparently. I didn't know Restream told me what the counted the chats, but apparently, disclaimer, this is not financial advice, is the 100th chat according to Restream. Which is cool. Oh, I guess it's 100th chat this stream. I was like, there's definitely been way more chats.
Yeah, that's how it's not like... Yeah, it's a stream alone. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Okay, so just to give you some background, for me, I was able to do what I'm doing right now, being independent, and doing my own stuff with my own company, and trying to make my own way, not going the traditional film ladder like most people do, because I learned finance, and I happened to learn it, I was not interested in it, naturally speaking. I was bashing my head into the keyboard, writing code, and hating life.
That is the issue with like a lot of... Sorry, it's like... Sorry, I already derailed you. But,
no, you're okay.
Yeah, like, I too am not interested in finances that much. And that is kind of a... it's kind of like... It's like... I mean, I don't know. Do I really want to read about like... Okay, I read about SVB because that genuinely interested me, right? It's like, okay. I was like, do I want to read about like what does it mean when the Feds increase interest rates? Like, I don't know, bro. I don't know if I care that much.
That's one of the things you should care about the most, actually.
I know. It's just like, I don't know.
Okay. But, so I was not naturally interested in it. Didn't give a hoot about personal finance or finance in general until I was coding, and I just happened to get on some YouTube bunny trail about like some random like stuff. I don't even remember how I got onto this. And people were talking about the idea of basically creating financial independence based off of very little savings, basically. And of course, I'm trying to get out of computer engineering ASAP. So I'm like, let me learn some stuff about this because, selfishly, maybe this will help me. And it changed my life. And it's not one creator or something like the weird like that. Like, oh yeah, this guy like go over hit. No, it's not that. It's just generally understanding finance, understanding how wealthy people operate is extremely important. Extremely important. I cannot understate it as an artist. You will do half the work, maybe a quarter. Over your whole life, you can easily do 1/100th of the work to get to the same place. If you understand personal finance than if you don't. And that's a big deal. And it's really sad to me that we don't teach some of this basic stuff in school. Okay. So that's why we should care. Now, I can't really give you the roadmap, or my roadmap at least, in this episode because that would take me too long. I have talked about some of those concepts in prior episodes. I should do an episode, and let me know if you'd be interested in that. I should do an episode with just sort of a generic, like, okay, here are things to consider. here are things you should probably think about doing or not doing. Of course, never financial advice, but things that I would consider and maybe you should consider as well. But for now, we're going to stick to the present day moment because we are living in a very, very tumultuous time, and it's not normal. So I can't even give you generic knowledge of finance right now. I can't give you generic,
I caught that, like, because it's not financial advice. I don't know. It's just. I don't know. We need to make a term for what it is, right? Because then it's like
it's an opinion. That's all it is. It's a financial opinion. Yes, it's an opinion. Okay. So, I can't give you an opinion, let's put it that way, on what to do generically right now, because right now is extraordinarily abnormal. Extraordinarily abnormal. And if you don't know that, where have you been for the past 3 years? Past 2-3 years. The stock market has been nuts. I made tons of money. Living in the past post. Yeah, I wish we were in the past. Anyway, let me just continue on. So today's topic is particularly about banks, and the reason we're going to talk about banks is because we need to understand what it does to your life, because it does a lot to your life. What is a bank? Nathan, what is a bank?
I think do you want to give me the required features or like what they tend to do?
Just give me a layman's,
Okay. I mean, I just wanted to ask you what a bank is. Like normally, I'd probably say it's somewhere where you keep your money, pretty much.
So not really. So
okay, that's great.
I mean, sort of. I mean, that's what people tend to do with them. But really, what they are institutions of lending.
Okay, that's the thing. That's what I was gonna say. Is like, I thought like the technical requirement is to hold money, but they typically like will invest and whatnot and loan out money.
Not typically, they always invest.
Okay.
Yes, there's no bank in this country. I would get bet because it would fail. It wouldn't be profitable to just hold your money without investing it. Okay. So a bank is an institution of lending. That's not a technical definition. That's just colloquial. Let's just understand it that way. When you put money in the bank, it does not stay there. A lot of people don't know that. And if you do know that and you think I'm being too simple, then sorry, but we're going to have to get through this so that everyone's on the same page. When you put your money in a bank, let's say you put $100 in a bank, they are not required to hold your $100 in that bank forever. In fact, what they do is they gamble it effectively. They take it and they invest. And investing is not certain. It's not gambling, actually, right? But it's not a certain venture, right? Like, so if they take your money and they invest in a local company, so let's say you put money in your local credit union, right? And they invest money in some local restaurant that's starting up. They give them a loan, right? Which is a type of investment because they're expecting to get interest on that loan, right? They loan your money. Literally, they take your money and give it to someone else and make the fees off of the loan, right? And that's how they become profitable. That's how they make money. That's a gross oversimplification, but that is the one that we're going to run with for now. The important thing to know, though, is that there is only one rule when it comes to loaning your money or investing your money into things that will make them money. The one rule is that they do not do so more than 9/10 of the money they have on deposit. So that means they can lend 90% of what's been deposited into bank accounts. They can invest in the stock market up to 90% they can literally do whatever they want as long as they're not pocketing it, which happens, with 90% of the money that they have technically on deposit. Yes, 90%. This is called, it's pretty unbelievable, right? This is called fractional reserve banking. It means that the bank is only required to have a fraction of what they are backing in these deposited accounts. So, what have we learned? We've learned that banks, to make money, need to invest and loan money out to other people. In order for them to do so, they need to have money to begin with from people who deposit into checkings and savings accounts. So you're a normal person, average everyday person. You open up a checkings and savings to put your paycheck into. Guess what? 90% of your paycheck is almost certainly, it's not 90% all the time, right? Banks can choose to hold more than that, and most do. But they're only required to have, 10% of it. And when you withdraw, what you're doing, when you, let's say tomorrow you decide, I'm going to withdraw, all of my money from the bank account, right? What's happening is they're finding the money elsewhere. It's not coming from your account specifically, right? They're finding the money from other people's accounts. They don't really even look at it like accounts, right? It's one big money pie. And so they just pull a slice from the money pie and give that out to you. What can happen? What's the point of the last 10% lol? Just make it 99.9%. Well, it's so that it's not maximally risky, is I guess the government's logic, I guess.
But, man, that was 90% risky. That's pretty risky.
A lot of this, and we were talking about inflation, and we were talking about corruption before. Oh, finance is all that. All finance is all corruption. So let me let me burst your bubble on how the underlying finances of our economy work. It's really bad. But yeah, only 90%. Only 10% of your money is guaranteed to be there if they're even following the law, which is also an assumption. Now, now you can understand that no matter how healthy your bank is, if every single person who had a deposit in the bank account decided one day that they were going to just withdraw it all, you can't. They literally cannot, right? So let's put it this way. Let's say there are 10 people who bank at a bank. Each of them has $1,000 in the bank. That's $10,000 total. And the bank has lent out $9,000 of that money to someone who's paying them back over time, right? But they don't have the money right now. Now, all those 10 people say, actually, I want my $1,000 back. They all simultaneously go to the bank. They pull their $1,000. They're actually not going to be able to, because the bank does not have the difference. Does that make sense? They do not have all $10,000. They actually only have $1,000 of that $10,000, and that means the bank has failed. Why is it? Why is that? It's because most banks, not all of them, and in fact, consumer accounts tend to be less like this than business accounts, but a lot of the bank contracts actually require them to give you your money upon withdrawal, right? Within 2 business days or something like that. That's usually the standard, right? So if they're now under contract with you to give you your money back whenever you request it within 2 business days, and they can't fulfill their obligation, that's called bankruptcy. Bankruptcy happens when an entity, it can be actually an individual person, can go bankrupt. People don't realize that. But also a business entity, when they go bankrupt, it means they can no longer fulfill their financial obligations. Not desires, but obligations. So they cannot fulfill their contracts anymore, which tend to be loans and tend to be things like that. Or withdrawal, let's say. Your consumer account might not be like that, by the way. When you made your account, you might have actually agreed to something like, we have reserved the right to indefinitely withhold your money. And they can do things like that.
That happened, I think, with some cryptocurrency bank or something like that, that like essentially, didn't collapse technically because they couldn't pay it out, but it didn't go bankrupt because they were not required to pay it out or something like that.
Yes. So let me use this as an example again, because we need to understand this. Let's say in this fictional bank that I just created, that $9,000 was on loan to just one lendee, right? For a 10-year loan. So it's a 10-year loan. That means it'll be paid back. The $9,000 will be back in the bank account, bank's possession, plus interest. And so they made profit. But that will that's a 10-year process. The bank could pay you back, but it would take 10 years. That's the problem, right? Like, they can pay you back. They would have to stop lending entirely. They would have to cease lending, and then they would have to just wait until the money returns, which is, not good. You don't want to wait 10 years for your money. Okay, so what's the recent news? SVB is a Silicon Valley Bank, is a massive bank. Now, I need you to realize something immediately. What you see on the news about the financial sector, and practically about anything, but especially about the financial sector, is for especially the lay, like you go on like CNN or you go like, it's all crap. It's all just if you couldn't make money off the market using the information you get from, and this is just true, right? Because investors, they get feedback directly. So if I just listened, and I used to invest this way, way at the beginning, right? And I used to just read news articles, and I would only make as much money as average, right? So which is not good. Like, that's, I went up as much as the market, but then why are you putting work into picking stocks specifically, right? If you're going to just go up with the market, you might as well just invest in the market generally, and then just sit back and let the money roll in as long as the market's going up. The problem, though, is when you try to optimize your strategy, the problem happens is you need information in order to do so, and you need accurate, reliable information that does not come from news articles. It comes nowhere near from news articles, and that alone, if you start playing that game, will change your perspective on life entirely in of itself. Because there's no way to make excuses for your reality your reality not matching up with the articles that you've read, right? You get the direct feedback, you lose money, and you will not do that again. So you learn. Now, so what does that mean in our particular situation? Silicon Valley Bank on Friday failed. Why did it fail? Because there was a bank run. Basically, everyone at the bank panicked because of a lot of underlying factors that we'll get into in a moment. And they all tried to withdraw their money, or too many of them tried to withdraw their money because they thought the bank was going to fail, right? So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, basically.
It's like the, I feel like I made jokes about this a lot in like history class. Like, to avoid the Great Depression, or at least the bank failure of the Great Depression, you just have to not withdraw at the moment, or withdraw a lot slower.
But game theory does not make that possible, right? Like, you can't actually cooperate to that degree, and because you can't cooperate to that degree, everyone will do the most self-preserving thing possible, right? Okay, so that's the mechanism by which they failed. Silicon Valley Bank did not have all the money because they had their money invested in all kinds of things, which we'll talk about in a moment. But the big thing is on Friday. So I didn't personally know what Silicon Valley Bank was like before Friday, right? Like, I didn't have specific information about Silicon Valley Bank didn't mean anything to me on Friday, right? Until it failed. And so the information I got from news sources when I opened up my Robinhood app, and there's like the little news feed, and I was like, bank failure? Which bank failed? Oh my gosh. And I open it up. It says medium regional bank. Medium-sized regional bank. That's a very poor coloration of what Silicon Valley Bank is, which took me a very long time to realize. Well, very long in my opinion, because I tend to be good at sniffing this stuff out. I had to go. I went on Wikipedia. I happened to go on Wikipedia later that night. Maybe like 5 hours later, and I was looking at the top 30 banks or something like that on Wikipedia. I think it's like number what is it? It was like number.
Silicon Valley Bank in the United States, the rank?
Yeah.
16.
16.
now it's like 1,000, but it was 16.
That's not a small bank, boys. That's not a small bank at all. That's not a medium bank. That's not even close to medium. That is massive.
Some statistics.
Massive.
By the way, if you're, I found out if you're listening from other countries, I'd be like, well, we only have like 2 banks here. Because we live in Canada or something like that, okay? So this is different, okay? In a place like the United States, there are many, many banks. I also found out today, or yesterday, that I didn't know this, it was this crazy. the population of Canada is lower than the population of California. I didn't know that,
Oh yeah.
but that is a thing. So Canada has 4 banks for reference, right? So yeah, and I guess I'm sure like lower population places there's probably a lot less banks than 16, but
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
and in the United States we have hundreds of banks, so
yeah. And some, probably also has to do with like economic like policies and stuff like that too, and like how common a bank is like per person or something like that,
Yeah.
But yeah, SVB has assets or had assets over $100 billion, had approximately 5K employees, and served approximately 30K clients.
So let me. So you said $100 billion in assets. That's not even what we should care about, right? They had $500 billion of deposits and loans.
That's a lot of money.
$500 billion. This is not small. This is massive. They're big. They're gigantic. Now, in the United States, we have a category of banks that are called too big to fail. Like literally, like at this point, yeah, $500 billion. Yeah, one company has control over $500 billion. Don't panic though. Like I'm not trying to. I really, the point of this is not to do what the news does and get you all riled up so you can click more articles or whatever. Like it's not that. I want this to be a healthy understanding of how bad things are so that we can correct our own personal situation, accordingly, right? As you decide once upon information and belief and not based off of on my not financial advice. So that's the point of this. But yeah. So it's huge. It's regional technically. Why would you mention that in an article? I have no idea. Because it doesn't matter it's regional if it has $500 billion tied up in its thing. It doesn't really matter so much. But it's technically regional because it only serves, I think, California. So, but that's irrelevant. So, you ask yourself, when this happens to you enough, you start to ask yourself, why did the article write this completely wrong? Like, why did the author of the article, it's not like a mistake in the sense that, like, they just got a fact wrong, right? Like, to characterize something this way is just bizarre. Like, you have to be crafting the way that the reader is trying to interpret what's the underlying story is. And that's kind of a problem. Okay. So, what else happened? Isn't like 75% of the population in Cali in New York? Maybe. That doesn't sound completely impossible. Actually, no. Well, actually, maybe. I was gonna say I know 50% of the population is in cities. So I'm like trying to math out if this is possible. 75%, but who knows? He says he'll look it up. So Silicon Valley Bank fails on a Friday. Then and Silverback Bank, a way smaller bank. It's barely even a bank, honestly. It's kind of a shell company. Also fails simultaneously, basically. We don't care about Silverback Bank. Let's just ignore that. We don't want to complicate the story. More importantly, though, yesterday. Oh, my camera died.
It seems to be a classic occurrence.
Here, Nathan, stall for a moment.
Okay, well, to further illustrate how big SVB is, here are some companies that have deposited some money into SVB. So they have Airbnb, Coinbase, DoorDash, Dropbox, Fitbit, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Roblox, Slack, SpaceX, Stripe, SurveyMonkey, Tesla, Twitter, Uber, and Zoom. Just those are a few. If you look up the entire list, it is massive. It is a lot of companies. Big companies, and not Roblox. Unfortunately, it seems so. Now, when a bank collapses, I don't know. I think it's maybe post Great Depression legislation. I don't know, but the FDIC, which stands for like the Federal Deposits something Insurance something. I don't know. They guarantee insurance of up to $250,000 per account per bank, I think it is, or something like that. So, like a company who's unable to be paid by a bank would be guaranteed by the government 250K, which might be like, wow, that's a lot of money, right? Maybe for you, but for a bank like SpaceX, that is like a penny. So for reference, Roku, the company that's behind like the TV stuff, like the TV like streaming like fancy stuff. I don't know how it works, but they had a lot of money in SVB. They had $500 million in SVB, which is about a quarter of their liquid cash. And so yeah,
yes, it's actually worse than that for Roku. But
is it? What?
Yeah, because they also have loans at Silicon Valley Bank that they owe money on that they can't pay from the same account from the same.
Oh,
it's really awkward.
That's weird.
They have $3 billion of loan.
Wait, but isn't it that if $3 billion?
Yeah.
Man, Silicon Valley.
They're running at a loss, like every modern company.
Yeah. That's also what makes like Silicon Valley Bank such a big thing. Is that like they're loaning to everyone who's like a skeleton, essentially, dead companies walking, essentially. But I'm curious why they can't just like just call it even. You know what I'm saying? Just be like, like it's like, oh, we don't have access to your account. It's like, okay, but like you have the payment then. You know what I'm saying? Like you just call it even. Just I just don't pay you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but they need the constant income, right? Like in order to ameliorate the issue before.
I guess, but like legally speaking, is that how that? I don't know how it works. I guess, but it's like, I guess I don't know, but it's like I don't know. It's like I feel like it's very strange. It's like I owe you money, but like you also owe me money. It's like just I just not going to get money.
Yeah,
it's strange.
Okay. Anyway, I'm back. Okay, Silverback Bank failed simultaneously, and then yesterday, Sunday, Signature Bank, and no one is talking about this. Signature Bank, I mean, people are talking about it, but not as many people know that there was a second major bank failure. Was Signature Bank, based out of New York, which is smaller than quite a bit smaller than SVB, so it's not like they're the same size, but had $200 billion of deposits, basically, and
Signature
equivalent.
Bank was more like wealthy individuals, right, and less companies or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I think you're right. So that's $700 billion in outstanding money. You know how much money you could pay per person in this country with $700 billion? It's a lot of money.
There's about 350 million of us, right?
Yeah.
So it's about what is it? So it's 100 billion, right? So 1 billion would be $3 per person. So it's like $2,100 per person, right?
It's your stimmy check. Oh my gosh, it's crazy the amount of money we're talking about. You really need to understand this is a massive. Now, ask yourself, it's enough money to give $2,000 to each person in the United States. Does this have no effect on the wider situation economically?
I was curious about this, and in the spirit of AI, because I assume this is an AI drawn thumbnail, right?
Yes.
I asked ChatGPT. I said, will this affect the average American? I said yes. I was like, okay.
Yes. Okay. So, $700 billion is a lot of money. Now, I'm going to tell you a story. I need you to hold on because it comes from not my financial advice, but from my experience, and this is my opinion. But you need to hear this because hearing this will hopefully help you to be less bad about how you interpret the world. You need to be less naive, in short. But if you want this, this is particularly directed at my local supporters. I've always thought about doing a Monday night or Monday morning. Maybe not Monday because we do the show on Monday as well, so maybe it'd be a bit too much for me. But I've always thought about doing a weekly locals only live stream where I just talk about the news of the week, finance news of the week, and I give you my thoughts and opinions on what's going on. Because it's so hard to get the right information, and I don't mind distilling it, but obviously that's a lot of work. So it would have to be a supporter only thing. So yeah. Anyway, so you would have known my thoughts on this already in advance is what I'm saying. I already knew something weird was going on. I just didn't know it was specifically this. And this really took me by surprise in terms of this particular bank failing. So a week, like the week that the bank failed on a Friday. Monday through Friday, the Fed is talking. And I should probably explain what the Fed is. The Federal Reserve is basically our national bank. A lot of people don't want you to think about it that way, but that's it's basically that. The Federal Reserve is technically an independent body from government, meaning technically its board is not made up of people who are elected or technically appointed, actually, too. Although their nomination has to be approved by the president. So yeah, take that for what you will. And they can be fired by the president.
Wait.
Which puts all the control on the president. Like, every news article you find about the Fed and something they do, they will name them as a independent institution. I always think that's hilarious, right? It's never been true. It's not true. Let's get this thought out of our mind, right? This is naive. The Federal Reserve Bank basically is given a charter that gives it so much power that it can govern without your consent, practically. What do I mean by that? I mean that it literally can buy bonds. So it can buy. Sorry, let me put this as simple terms because we can't get into the details. But it can buy bad assets. So these banks. So let's go back to our example bank. Normally, when you lend out that $9,000 out of the $10,000 pool, you lend it out responsibly, or not. Actually, I don't know if that's normal. I should say, what you should do is you should lend out that $9,000 responsibly, meaning you pair that $9,000 with someone who can pay it back with a high level of certainty, right? Or the risk to reward ratio is really nice, right? It's in the Goldilocks zone. To do that, you need to vet your customer, your loan customer. You need to know whether they pay back their loans on time or not. You need to know, all that kind of stuff. Like the Silicon Regional Bank, so reputable. So what you need to do, what you need to understand is that doesn't always happen, obviously. So what happens when a bank goes ahead and it lends money to a bad person? Sometimes this happens just by chance. The person looks good, but they end up being like a bad lendee. It could be life something happens to them in life, or it could just be they actually were always a bad lendee, but they just happen to have a good record up until now, or something like that, right? So what the Fed does, the Federal Reserve Bank, our national bank that is quote-unquote independent, is it buys bad loans off of banks at a certain rate. Meaning, if you're a bank and you have a lendee all of a sudden that is now rated lower, they will buy the loan from the bank and say, that's not your loan anymore, it's my loan. The Federal Reserve says, now that's my loan, right? And they do this without any expectation of profit. And now you can start to see how this is kind of nuts, because they don't make money. They're a non-profit. People make money. They make a lot of money, salary wise. But in terms of like profit margins, they don't care. That's not what they're chartered to do. Which takes the economic pressure away from banks to have good lendees, because they always know a certain amount of their bad loans will get bought out by the Federal Reserve. Does that make sense? Are we good on that?
Yes, things have gotten a bit complicated, but my brain at least.
Okay, so you can buy loans, like banks can buy loans from each other, right? Like anyone can buy a loan. You're just buying the right to collect the interest from the loan instead of the original bank, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like, and you're also buying the risk, right? That the person might not. What happens if the Federal Reserve defaults? I love this question.
Wait. I'm just curious.
This is a great question.
Does this relate to the? Okay, because you said this is like America's bank, right?
Yeah.
And this is America. I don't know if this is like relevant, but aren't we in debt? So how does that
Yes,
work?
we are in debt.
Okay.
Oh, Post, I love you for that question. Guess what happens when the Federal Reserve runs out of money to buy these loans?
Just make more money. I don't know.
It prints them. It prints them. It literally prints them, right? So it literally takes that. It literally makes more money to buy more loans, buy more bad loans. So it is.
Why does it do this again?
Huh?
Why does it do this again?
It does this to quote unquote regulate the economy,
Okay.
and particularly the dollar, which is a bunny hole I cannot get into. But basically, the dollar is one of the primary reasons why the United States has dominance globally. It sounds weird. I can't really get into it.
I'm aware of the concept. Yeah.
Yeah, it's called dollar hegemony. Our dollar's nickname is the petrodollar. It's a whole bunny trail. But the Federal Reserve is extremely important to a country that needs to keep the dollar's value predictable. And you can't have a predictable value of the dollar, not easily at least, without controlling supply and demand, which is effectively what the Federal Reserve is trying to do, is trying to affect the overall relationship between the dollar and supply and demand. How is that? It can affect the supply of dollars. That's how is that?
By printing money, you're saying?
By printing money.
Can it destroy money? No, right? Because it doesn't.
That's a good question. Can it destroy money?
And also, is it only able to print money when it needs to, like when it's buying loans?
Oh, I'm sure there's a bunch of relevant laws and regulations on how exactly they are able to do things, but practically speaking, it's just whenever they want to.
Okay.
Unilaterally, with no permission from the president, no permission from Congress.
Right.
Because they're quote unquote an independent institution.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway. I hope I'm blowing people's minds out there. I think I'm blowing Post's mind. So, the reason they do this loan buying thing, like I said, is to control the value of the dollar, right? Is to make sure the dollar stays at a fixed rate of, here's another magic word, inflation. Inflation, very simply, is just the relation of supply and demand of the dollar itself, right? Another way to think about it is, it's a specific type of relationship of that, which is the dollar losing value over time or buying power. It gets complicated. I'm not going to get into the weeds of these terms. Inflation actually doesn't have a singular definition, unfortunately, and that's kind of how the Fed manipulates a lot of news. Anyway, but for our purposes, we care about inflation a lot as artists, and here's where we get back to ourselves, because we need to know what to do with our money. Hashtag not financial advice. We need to know. We need to know what places will give us the most bang for our buck, so that instead of having to now start to look for a job back at computer engineering or flipping burgers or whatever your backstop is, you can actually stay an artist in hard times as well, because you've built a self-sufficient cash supply, right? You make money by doing nothing, and this is possible. People think this is only a rich person thing. This is possible for anybody. It's obviously going to be a lot. Huh?
You have me interested.
Yeah, it's called passive income. No income is ever truly passive, but
yeah, I would say it's like it's always going to be like some amount of work, although it might be minimal. Yeah.
Yeah, but the work to like benefit ratio is like really nice on passive income. That's what makes it so important, because your time is irreplaceable, right? So I'm gonna maybe I'll do an episode in the future about passive income. Again, let me know if that's something you're interested in. But I can't get into that now. But I'm trying to paint the financial situation so we know what types of passive income are going to be sustainable, and what we should do right now with a lot of our different stuff. Hashtag not financial advice. Okay. So inflation is your dollar going less far to buy you something, practically speaking, over time. So you've heard that we've had high inflation lately that has translated in our particular situation as prices going up. So if you could buy a hot dog for $2 yesterday, if it's inflated by 3% today, if it's 3% inflation, that's what that would mean. That hot dog is now going to cost you $1.03, even though you have personally the same amount of income coming in. Does that make sense? That's inflation. Yep. High inflation is very bad. Because why? That means that prices rise, but your ability to pay for things does not rise, right? And if you need to pay for your art stuff, like let's say you need to buy a subscription for something, you need to make a trip to wherever, you need to do whatever you need to do, that stuff becomes more expensive. It's harder to pay off just with your paycheck alone, expecting your paycheck, to just instead of having reserves or something like that where you can pay for those things and make those risks. Okay. So the Federal Reserve has a target inflation rate of 2 to 3% every year. This is considered to be good, although I disagree heavily. Heavily. This is considered to be good because it forces people to not save money. You can't put your money in a bank account, hold it for 20 years, because by the 20 years is over, compound interest is nasty, right? 2 to 3% sounds a little bit, but if you do the compound math, I don't know what it would be actually, but it might be like half your money, basically. By the end of your 20 years, equivalent left. So what the Federal Reserve is trying to do is try to encourage the average person to take risk on their money by doing something with it, whether it's spending it, like on just goods and services, or whether it's investing it in the stock market, or if it's putting in a bank account that earns you interest, right? A high interest bank account. They want you to do something other than shove it under the mattress because they see that as stimulating the economy. Again, I heavily disagree. That's a story for another day. And it also makes loans cheaper and easier to pay off. We are a heavily in debt country. We owe trillions and trillions of dollars to three sources. Ourselves, we literally, when we are, a third of our debt is literally against the people, which is a concept I can't explain right now. A third of our debt comes from foreign debtors, so from foreign countries, and the last third of our debt comes from U.S. companies. Think about that, by the way. I hope that's another mind-blowing moment for you, that a third of the country's debt is held by private companies.
We owe companies money? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Does my country owe companies
Guess what those companies have a lot of power. They have a lot of power. Guess what those companies tend to be? Insurance companies. Almost all of them are insurance companies. Insurance companies. Neo-feudalism, let's go. Yeah. So, right. Okay. So, let's see, where is it going with this? Okay. So because we have a lot of debt, insurance is good because it helps us to pay off our debts easier as a country, right? Because let's say you borrow money from China, you borrow $1 billion from China to pay for, I don't know, something. And the interest rate of that loan is 4%. So China says, you need to pay me back 4% to make this loan worthwhile for us to make money, right? And the US goes, no problem. But the dollar that you're paying the loan in inflates by 3%. Effectively, the math is just 4 minus 3. The effective loan rate is 1%, which is way cheaper for the United States to pay off. So we are forced to inflate our money off of that principle alone because we borrow just obscene amounts of money. And again, that's a conversation for another day. Okay. So the Fed...
They borrowed money from me.
Huh?
I wish they borrowed money from me.
Well, they do. They do. You just don't get any benefit from it, like I said.
Well.
Okay. And by the way, that inflation is a form of borrowing against you in a different sense than even what I was talking about earlier. It's effectively a 3% tax on on every dollar you have. But anyway, because it backs the loans, right? It makes the loans cheaper. They're sucking money from you in order to pay down loans. Anyway. Okay. So the reason I was talking about the Fed and want to explain that real quick is because the Fed is very important. When they say something, you know, they affect the economy drastically. And you need to understand that almost all of finance, the backstop of all of it is psychology. It's not fundamentals. Get that out of your head. It's not underlying math. It's underlying psychology. Underlying math is going to affect the underlying psychology, of course. And there's certain things that just can't be you can't make money by thinking you have more money, right? Like that's not a thing. But market movements in any degree can be measured in psychology and not by the fundamental math, right? A rational market would be highly tied to the fundamental math. An irrational market, which is all markets practically, are not actually heavily tied to the fundamental math. Okay. So the Fed saying something, even if it's not true, right? Like, if they just say something, it will affect the market drastically. So that's why I follow the Fed. I have to, because they affect things by just their very speech, right? So the Fed was doing something weird, and this is why I was trying to explain that whole thing this last week. And this is something I would mention on. I'd be like, I don't know why they're doing this, but this is very strange, and I don't get it. You know, they were going on a tour throughout the country all of last week, saying things are worse than you think they are. Very bizarre. I don't know why. Like, I was like during the week, I was like, why are they? What is this random like tour for things are worse than you think they are? Well, now I know, because they were prepping the populace, or really the investor class. Not really. They don't really care in this particular case about the average person per se, but they were trying to take the investor class and say, look, I don't want you to be psychologically shocked for what's going to happen on Friday, because they already knew that SVB Bank was going to fail on Friday. And I can't prove that 100%, but it's highly logical based off of the circumstances, basically. And I've got a knack for this at this point. Hashtag not financial advice. So they knew that SVB was going to go under. By the way, it's not just that they knew, like, they're talking to the guy in the back room. That's not what I mean. I mean, they knew because they have access to a lot of the financial data, like, you know, as a requirement for such a large bank, right? So they have information about the financials. They already knew that they were going to go under soon. So they went on an apology tour and basically were like, hey guys, mentally prep yourselves. You know, we're not going to tell you why, of course, but, you know, things are worse than you think they are, basically. Now, on Friday, the bank fails. And if you know history, Friday is where news goes to die. In finance history, Friday, yeah, they did condition the country.
Isn't it like, didn't the bank run of the Great Depression start on a Friday, or was that a different day?
It might have been. I'm not sure. But in finance, Fridays are doubly a black hole. Why is that? They're doubly a black hole because you can't do anything banking wise unless you're an executive, or, you know, unless you are of the banking class itself. You can't do anything banking wise over the weekend, right? If you go over to your bank and try to withdraw your money, they're closed, right? So in the finance world, days off are like really real for finance people. Like they really don't do things on days off, right?
To clarify, I got the wrong depression. Black Friday, the Great Depression started on Black Tuesday. The Depression of 1869 started on Black Friday.
Right. So if you can hold off as a bank until Friday, if you could just hold on, be like, guys, we just got to squeeze the money out until Friday. Then when Friday the bad news comes out, people can't run the bank, right? They can't run the bank, at least for more than a few hours, right? You know, they can't run the bank, and we have the whole weekend to figure ourselves out. You need to start thinking that way, because that's how it works, okay? That's how this works. So the Fed knows this is going to happen, and so they pre-prep everyone's minds. Then Friday comes, and they knew it was going to come, and they already had, by that Friday, I don't know how long they've known, but at least by the time they started doing their weird tour. But when the actual disaster comes, they already have somewhat of an idea of what they're going to do. But remember, it's all psychological. The fundamental reason things move is like the reason a bank run happens is psychological to begin with. The reason people want to all withdraw their money out all at once, it might be based off of a fact, but the psychology is what's driving it, right? Like, the fear is what's driving. The risk of the fear of risk is what's driving people to go try to withdraw all their money. Meaning, you can have bank runs without any financial problems, right? So let's imagine a world where SVB is the only bank that goes under, and every other bank is super healthy. In fact, they have 50% of their deposits on book.
Right? Like how that's considered super healthy is like half is gone, but like half is here.
They're super healthy. They're operating like normal. They're super moral people. They're not lying about anything, whatever, right? But people panic because SVB gone down. They're like, every other bank must be poisonous. Then they go try to withdraw their money from the other banks that were completely healthy. Well, it doesn't matter if you're completely healthy because, as I explained, they don't have the money. They never did. A healthy bank doesn't even have the money. So a bank run is psychological. It doesn't matter what the underlying truth of the bank's financials are. It only matters what people think about the bank's healthiness, if that makes sense. That's how the stock market works, too. That's how you make money off the stock market, is by noticing desyncs between reality and people's psychology and exploiting it. That's literally how you make money off of the stock market. Okay. What was I going to say here? So what does the Fed do is over the weekend they were working. The Fed was talking a lot over the weekend. Like all weekend because they have the whole weekend to make sure that on Monday Americans don't wake up and they just go to their bank and withdraw all their money. That's what was happening.
Oh man, now because I know the ending, so now all this makes a lot more sense to me. Because panic is bad, I see.
Yeah, panic is bad. Now I didn't know, and this is the ending that Nathan's probably referring to. I didn't know that the Fed had the power to bail out banks single-handedly. I thought that was a power that was reserved by Congress. Apparently, I was completely wrong. I remember in 2008 that I thought it required a bill for them to do that, but maybe their charter had changed since then, which is terrifying, because now the Fed can single-handedly bail out meaning give free money to a company for no other reason than that they're failing, to hopefully cause them to cease failing, or at least the negative outcomes to cease happening, right? They're just giving money to someone. That can happen, apparently, without the Federal Reserve having to go through Congress, which I think is actually nuts. Like, you should think about that real quick. They can inflate your money without your permission. That's essentially what that means. Because your only vector of control over the government is through
this makes more sense lawmakers. Now. I learned. Okay, so I remember I read like the little like short brief thing that the Fed said or whatever, and it was like there will be no like I don't know what the exact words were, but it essentially said like there will be no harm, like no money out of the taxpayer will like be used or whatever. I was like, how's where getting the money from now? I was like, where's it coming from? Are they gonna print the money?
They're gonna print the money. They're gonna print it.
I was so confused.
They're gonna print it. They're gonna print all $700 billion. Not that much actually, but they're gonna print a lot of money. Go ahead. Sorry.
I thought they were just using wordplay to trick you, and there's gonna. I was like, there's literally no other like option. So I was like,
well, it is your money. No, this is the thing you need to understand. Okay. It is your money.
Yeah, that is true. Because
you're getting taxed the resulting inflation that will happen because of the printing of money that they're about to do to bail out those banks is going to forcibly tax without you having to give them a dollar every single dollar you have in your pocket.
Is it known how fast they'll be printed? Because like if they printed it out like tomorrow, right? I'd be like, whoa, that's like that is insane. They printed out over like a trillion years, right? It's like, okay, well, Is it known like how fast this is going to happen?
They're just going to happen immediately.
As in like all money will be printed immediately? I mean, like,
of course.
But they're printed out in one go.
Yeah. You don't have to print it. You just put it in an Excel sheet. That's how it works. No, I'm serious. I literally promise you, it's maybe not literally Excel, but it's like...
I think it's something more robust would be like nice.
It's a spreadsheet. It's literally a spreadsheet. They literally have assets on one side and debts on the other side, and all they do is they add plus 400 billion on one side and minus 400 billion on the other side, and say, look, we have the same amount of money as we did before.
What happens
That
when,
minus 400 billion is debt against the people, which is a concept I can't explain right now.
What happens when someone wants what's that? What happens when someone wants a bank wants the cash?
I highly recommend that you don't do that right now. But that's not my financial advice. But like, Bitcoin is also toxic in the same. It's not Bitcoin specifically. It's not the technology. Okay, you're joking. It's not the technology that, though. Just to clarify this, it's not the technology that causes this problem. It's the fact that Bitcoin and all cryptocurrencies are essentially bought with, at this point, I don't know what percentage it is because it's impossible to know, but a large percentage of crypto is bought by debt from banks. So what goes down if the bank goes down? The crypto as well. So the goal of decentralizing has kind of... it's interesting, isn't it? Anyway. Anyway. In any case, what was I going to say? So, okay, let's go back to the bailout thing. Now, they're telling you it's not a bailout. They're saying...
I don't know.
It's not a bailout. We're just guaranteeing deposits because we're not giving money to the investors to... and all the bank managers have been fired. So you're bailing out the underlying entity, but I guess not the specific, like... I mean, who cares what, like, who's making money off of what? There's gonna be someone else who comes in and just makes the money later. Like, what does it matter? Like,
this is the idea that, like, the people using the bank, like, they also made the decision to use the bank, right?
Yeah.
Even if, like, you could say, like, oh, well, they couldn't have known, or whatever, right?
No, they did. But here,
Roku had 26% of their money in a bank.
Let's talk about that. Everybody knows, or practically everybody knows, and you should know, especially if you are a business banking at Silicon Valley Bank, that you're only FDIC insured up to $250,000. This is a common fact.
That's
I'm
what
pretty
I'm
sure I learned this in high school.
I knew that. Yeah, I knew it from high school. I knew this from high school. I remember when I saw the number, I said, on this news came out, I was like, oh yeah, I knew that from high school. That's the thing, right? It's like, so even if you say, like, I thought that the risks were a lot less, whatever, right? It doesn't matter, right? The risk is still non-zero. It's just how it is, right? Yes. And so, like, even if it's even if it's like 1%, doesn't mean you could say, like, well, but it's 1%, so it couldn't have happened. It's like, no, it wasn't 0%, so it could have happened, right? So it's like, it feels weird that the people who use the bank didn't lose anything.
Well, here's the thing, and this is where you need to ignore the articles again. There's a lot of articles that are saying that, well, it's not the people who deposited its fault because, and it's easy to feel for them because you think, I might be in that situation, I'd want people to feel bad for me. Let me explain something to you. The reason this, let's get into the reasons why Silicon Valley Bank specifically failed. First, I will say the word first because it's not the last, and I don't think we're even done yet. But the reason that it's a popular bank to begin with is that they give loans away easily to startups that have no proven track record. Loans and investments, meaning that they're a particularly high-risk bank because they do so. And when you put your money in there, you know that. You especially know that if you're an entrepreneur. That's especially true. Like, there's no excuse to me. I'm not saying that you shouldn't feel bad for them in the sense that, like, wow, the RNG was really bad for you. Like, it really sucks. I understand that aspect of it. But to put more, to not diversify your bank accounts when you have more than $250,000, which was 93% of the customers at the bank, had more than $250,000 in the bank. You know already that there's no guarantee that money stays there. You know how banks work too, especially the really large ones. They have financial advisors, like actual licensed financial advisors. They have accountants, right? They already know. They just chose not to. And at the end of the day, we never get backstopped by the government for our choices for anything else. When I buy a bad stock and I lose money, even if it was a blue chip stock, let's say I bought Google stock tomorrow, but then something weird happened, like Google was lying this whole time about how much money they made. I had completely false information. There was nothing I could do about that. but then the stock value drops 50%. No one backstops me for that. It's the same thing. Conceptually, principally, it's the same thing. Anyway, the problem is not solved because the Fed said something else, again, to affect the psychology. That's not just we're going to bail out these 3 banks, or I think it was all 3 actually. And by the way, when they bailed out Signature Bank, that's when I knew things were really bad. Signature Bank is not too big to fail. Silicon Valley Bank is also not too big to fail, strictly speaking, but the results of its failure would be maybe causing other too big to fail things, quote unquote too big to fail. I don't even agree with that concept, but I'm just using their concept, right? Too big to fail entities might go under because of it. So maybe you can make some arguments about Silicon Valley Bank. Signature Bank, we should be able to absorb that painfully, but we should be able to absorb that. But they bailed them out too. This is very concerning. Why is it very concerning? It's because remember how the Fed affects the economy, right? It buys bad loans, right? Which backstops a certain amount of risk. You are essentially telling banks that there is no risk for any of their investments anymore because all of it gets backstopped by the Fed. All of it is effectively insured by the Fed. The Fed will always pay for your bad mistake. And they said, and the thing is, they literally said all of it. When they bailed out Signature Bank, I was like, oh, that means all of it by implication. Then they literally came out and said all of it. I was like, what? Why would you even say that? You're not even giving yourself an out here. This is really, really bad because that means that, and I'm telling you, if you are naive and you think that people are better than they are, you will think that, oh, well, people will look at Silverback Bank or SVB and they will be scared that the next one will be them, and so they'll treat their money better. That is naive. The executives don't care. They don't. I'm not saying every executive. I'm not trying to speak badly on everybody. A lot of executives don't care. They look at the Fed absorbing all the risk and they say, wow, an opportunity to make more money. That is how the world works, okay? Given that's how the world works, you need to behave appropriately because you can see how your behavior could differ depending on if you think that most people are great in finance and they're just going to behave more responsibly after this whole thing versus, most people are going to take advantage of the situation and view this as a means to make more money. You need to be on your behavior is different depending on which you believe, right? So you need to have the real position, which is when you look at history, or at least in my opinion, what's the real position, which is when you look at history, every single time you look at failure on the finance side, it is always greed and lying that causes the first to fail. And when others are greedy and lying, others look at it as an opportunity, look at opportunities for more greed and lying. It has happened in history time and time and time again. And you need to understand that. So, why did SVB fail? Because this is important too. It failed because it had revenue declines because the economy, generally speaking, is not doing well. Right? So, if their companies that they invest in are not doing well, they're not making as much money. If they're not getting less deposits because the companies aren't doing as well, there's less money to loan out for a profit, right? Revenue decline. 2 is inflation. So not only are they getting revenue decline, but their dollars are being worth less. So the dollars they do get in are worth less over time because of the Fed-induced inflation, right? By printing money for lockdowns, by the way. That's what caused the general inflationary climate that we're in right now. The third reason is rate hikes, which I didn't explain that concept specifically. Just think about it as the Fed buying less loans. It's actually not really okay. That's actually a different thing than the rate hike, but so we understand what the effect is, right? They are stimulating the economy less over time because they're trying to deflate the dollar because it's inflating too fast, and they're trying to basically force demand to dry up, they're trying to force demand to dry up. Basically.
I feel like printing a bunch of money now does not make deflation happen. But
well, that's what I'm going to talk about in a moment. The fourth reason, and this is, I guess, my opinion, is a lot of lying happened at Silicon Valley Bank. Folks, this does not happen, in my opinion, without many people lying to a lot of people. This does not happen suddenly, I should say. Like, without anyone knowing except for the Fed, apparently. Without you lying to your customers, you lying to your employees. There's multiple ways to lie. Not all lies are just like outright saying A instead of B, right? Lying can also account for it can also be clever accounting that gets past the idea of the accounting to begin with, right? So you account for something in such a way that is technically correct in the way that you did the accounting, but it kind of defies the purpose of doing that accounting to begin with, if that makes sense. You know, you kind of give a fake number that's generated from real math, is the best way to describe that. SVB probably was doing that. Guess what? Every bank is probably doing that. And again, you need to be, it's just in good times, it doesn't matter because there's no stress on the bank. In bad times, it starts to matter, right? And the last reason they failed is no planning. They did not plan when they invested in all these startups and whatnot, giving them cheap loans. That works really well in good times. It works really terrible in bad times, but they didn't plan for the bad times. So here they are, right? Okay. When you bail out the bank, these reasons don't give you a reason to bail them out. First of all, this should be their own L. They should take the L and they should die, right? That's survival of the fittest in a capitalistic sense, right? But because these reasons are all their own fault, except for inflation, I suppose. Sort of, but you can plan, right? Like there's just a lack of.
Yeah, I was also like I don't know how long term their plans were. They couldn't change courses, but I feel like inflation isn't like a new concept around here, like
right. So in their failing, getting bailed out by the Fed, you are undoing that amount. You are undoing your deflationary rate hikes. You are like you said how does printing money help? It literally doesn't. You are literally going to inflate the dollar to prevent this bank failing is deflationary, right? So if the bank failed and this amount of money essentially gets destroyed because it's not productive anymore, it's not literally destroyed, but the demand side of the equation starts to go down, right? As an effect. That's actually deflating the dollar. It helps the Fed's cause. That's why they raised the rates to begin with, because they're trying to smash businesses. They are trying to smash businesses because that decreases the inflation. They just didn't mean to smash this business. That's what they didn't. And you need to think about it that way too, because think about the picking and choosing that goes on. That's kind of unfair, right? Like in a sense, But anyway, so SVB shouldn't fail, but your mom and pop shop down the street, it should fail in order to save the dollar, right? That's effectively what the Fed is doing. They'll never phrase it that way, but that's what's happening. Because they need to decrease inflation. So to backstop the banks is inflationary. It's highly inflationary, and this should affect your view. This is starting to sound like medieval Europe. Honestly, it's worse than medieval Europe in a lot of ways. But I'm also not expert in medieval European economies. But my understanding of of medieval Europe, I won't get into it. But this is, in my opinion, even worse. So that inflationary act is going to undo a lot of their rate hike work, which is going to cause them to raise rates even more. What's this situation called? It's called something you learned in high school. It's called stagflation. Stagflation. The Fed is going to continue to try to depress productivity, demand. Sorry, not productivity. They want productivity to go up. Sorry, demand, particularly. They're trying to suppress demand while also having to print money, which is inflationary. So what's going to happen to your life, in my opinion, is your standard of living will continue to drop like any other recession while your money still inflates anyway. You know, you'll lose your job, but inflation will still continue to go, which has happened in history. It happened in the 70s. I think the same thing, if not worse, is going to happen now, in my opinion, not financial advice. So, and this is all predictable, by the way. When they printed the money to begin with, any reasonable person already knew this was going to happen. I knew, if I wish I had the podcast back then, I would have told you. I would have said, I predict stagflation is going to occur within 5 years because of the trillions of dollars we printed. It's just completely predictable. Completely predictable. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. All the rest is politics. The idea that you could print, I think we printed like $9 trillion. I'd have to look it up. Maybe even more than that. We printed half of our money supply in 2 years. Half of our money supply. Anyway, again, okay, back to our individual lives. Now you have to understand that that's the worst case scenario, practically, as an entrepreneur. And so you need to behave like it's the worst case scenario, in my opinion. How do you do that? If you currently have business, right? Like if you're like me, you own a business, cling to your customers like they are your life. Like you need to overperform. Like you need to offer more than you said you would give. Because when it comes time for you to lose half your customers, you want to make sure your best customers are still with you, which is possible. When things go really bad, not all businesses literally die, right? There will be some economic activity, but your share in it is smaller. Just try to keep as much of the share as you possibly can by being just damn good at what you do, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is you need to, it's going to sound weird because we have a lot of inflation, but in my opinion, not financial advice, you need to save money. You need to.
That's the weird thing. I've heard you say this before. I still don't get it.
You need to save money because you don't really have a better choice. That's kind of partly the thing. But two, even though that money inflates, asset prices, so houses, and I'll talk about this in a future podcast, houses, stocks, everything else is going to crash. And unless you think the US government's going to fail, which is just a nightmare in of itself, so we don't need to even consider it because that just means the end. So, like we don't need to like think about that option because money's not worth anything in that universe anyway. So, unless you think the US government's going to fail, you could buy assets at their lowest, their cheapest, right? And hold them until they go back up again. When everything goes back to normal, the economy's back chugging along.
Well, why do prices crash despite inflation? Because of the lack of demand. No, wait, that wouldn't make sense. Yeah,
it's actually the worst case scenario. So it actually doesn't crash properly. So like basically the relative value goes down slowly because that's the only way you get inflation in control is that the relative value has to go down slowly. But it happens in stagflation so slowly that you don't feel that ease as you go into it, if that makes sense. So you need to be ready though. And I'm telling you, like, and I don't want to be depressing. Again, this is not the point of this whole thing. It's just reality, in my opinion, right? This is not something that's gonna like in 2 years go away. I wish it was. It's not. I knew that as soon as they printed the money that we were in for something long. Okay, so you need to be thinking about something more like 2008, which lasted 4 or 5 years, and maybe even a situation more like the 70s and 80s. Which stagflation, which is not, if it was like that kind of stagflation, it actually wouldn't even be the worst case scenario, honestly. That would be survivable. But in terms of, but it's going to be stagflation of a worse kind than that, and that lasted 10 years. I think even more, maybe 12 years. So, get that in your head. If you have a job right now, and that's how you're sustaining yourself, make sure you are getting job security. Like, don't take the risks now. Now is not the time. The time to take risks was when we hit the bottom, when we've leveled out and we've gone as low as we possibly can. Now is not the time. If you're turning your time into product without any expense, that's fine. So, like, if you're like Post, for example, who's making a game right now, and he's not employing anyone, I assume his expenses are practically zero for making the game. for all practical purposes. It's only his time that's creating the product, right? In that case, you should do more like that, basically. Yes, it's just time. Yeah, so that's a good scenario. A better scenario, I should say. None of the scenarios are good, but that's a better scenario. But if you are employing someone, you're taking out a loan. Actually, taking out loans are actually good in this scenario, but I'll get to that. I won't get to that this episode, but I talked about it before on the podcast.
Not financial advice.
Not financial advice. You need to make sure your income sources are as full as possible, because if you're not invested into an asset yet, you won't have a chance for a long time. I live in a place, I moved here recently, where I'm extraordinarily lucky I found this place. There's no crime. Everyone's really nice. It's actually nice. I actually like living here. It's beautiful. It gives me peace. I can stay here because this town is dying, or not dying. It's actually reviving, but it was dead before the economy, took a dump, right? Meaning that the asset prices here are already at the bottom. So I'm lucky. I could potentially buy 5 houses within the next 5 years, like pretty reasonably, and use that mechanism to. This is what a rich person does, by the way. This is why I said learning to behave like rich people is very important, because it's actually, and they don't teach you this in school because they want you to be a wage slave. But my little opinion aside, they don't teach you this in school. But it's not a rich person thing per se. It's just they have the knowledge. That's how they either got there or passed it on to their children, right? Like they with the children of the wealthy, by the way, they get taught this by their parents. It's one of the reasons that they get such a big, boost. It's not just the money. They get taught how to make the money passively make more money, by their parents, because they won't get taught that in school. You have access to almost all the same tools, just on a smaller scale, right? So you could use those tools, and I can't get into that right now. But for me, one of those tools is buying real estate, and that has a lot of effects. I can't explain them now, but if I bought 5 houses, I would be nowhere near a rich person, but I have done something that can potentially sustain me without working in a lot of different ways. So, not financial advice, but consider finding a place like this is one of the things that I would say. That is already at the bottom, and you can sort of have your pick. I mean, when I say at the bottom, I think I said this on the last podcast. Houses here are like $50,000. Like it's like the 1980s or something over here. It's like absurd. It's like a functional house is like $65,000. Like, it needs nothing done to it. You could just move into it right now. And this town is beautiful. It's only going up from here. There's already investment happening. So big money has already seen, medium money has already seen the potential of this place, and they're already starting to make moves here. So I already know other people see what I see. So I'm not going insane, right? So, consider that. Consider cutting your costs in life. Reduce your subscriptions, reduce your luxury spending, so that you could take that money and work up to buying a house, or work up to having a good amount of money stored in even stuff. For me, I'm a filmmaker. I need cameras. I need lenses. I need stuff to be productive. Buying stuff is a way to store money in a way that actually makes you passive income, because that's what, not passive income, makes you income because it's your tools for work. So if you can get that film done in half the time, if you put $10,000 into, buying a film truck, let's say, I don't know if that's your barrier for whatever reason, right? Do that now while you can. You can always sell the truck if you need to. You get what I'm saying? Like, but that truck is now productive for you. It makes you money. It saves you time. Time is money, Don't be afraid to buy things that are productive, but don't spend money on things that aren't. Spend less on going out to eat. Go spend less on that kind of stuff.
So I don't know if I mentioned this before, definitely not on the podcast, but to you specifically. But I've been considering, it was like a while ago, when money started being printed. I was like, oh, this is interesting. um, considered, I looked a lot into hydroponics and like building a little hydroponic system, essentially to grow vegetables, so that you don't have to buy them at the store or whatever. Um, that becomes like part of like the productive things, right? Because it's a money saver.
100%. So, for example, for me in my personal household, we've bought equipment that helps us to bulk store food, right? Or not equipment. It sounds more fancy than it is. It's just like airtight containers, right? Like, but they're an investment. Like, it's not money I normally would have spent like just on a whim, like just been like, oh, I really want these airtight containers. However, it's productive. So I store the money in the containers by buying them, and I get the benefit of having more food all at once, which allows me to buy food cheaper. You see what I'm saying? Like, you got to start thinking in that way and be like, I need to spend money to make money as long as I know it makes me money, and not spend money that doesn't make me money, right? If you need to take out a loan, inflation helps you. If you have student loans, this is strong, not financial advice, because this is some place where someone could easily construe this as financial advice and screw me. Don't sue me. But I will say that if you have a student loan, you might want to consider paying the minimum of that student loan and not paying it down earlier, because inflation, just like it helps the U.S. government pay off its loans from China, it helps you pay off loans as part of the reason why it's stimulating of the economy. It also helps you pay down loans that you have. So if you have a student loan that's at 10%, but inflation's at 10%, your effective rate of that student loan is 0. So why would you pay it off now? In my opinion, right? Instead, save the money for either a rainy day or do something productive with it that makes you money, right? Hashtag not financial advice over and over and over again on that one. Okay. So, yes, that's just the beginning. I've talked forever. This podcast is really long, actually. So I'm sorry for that. When we come back, maybe I'll do a series from now, because I guess it's now is the time critical thing for a lot of this stuff. Well, I might talk about passive income. I might talk about what I might be doing during this current time. But let me know if you want that kind of stuff, if you enjoy that kind of stuff in the comments. Head over to our Discord. Or a link to our Discord is at mixedmediapodcast.com. It's also in the description of wherever you're watching right now. Head over there. Head over to our Discord. You can ask me any questions. Just know that any answers I give are not financial advice. And I'm also not always right. Like, I lose money all the time. I just make a lot more than I lose, right? So, I recently lost like $3,000 on trying to time a put on the market, trying to short the market essentially. And I mistimed the exit. I timed the entrance beautifully. I mistimed the exit. Lost $3,000, right? That kind of sucks. I felt that it really hurt me. But so I make mistakes, right? So it's not like that. It's not like anything's a guarantee. But if you are not used to grabbing that information, maybe adding information or opinions that I say out loud might help you, or it may not. It's really up to you, because I'm not a financial advisor. Okay. And that's it. That's it for that. So SVB, in short, to recap that whole thing, SVB failing is a big deal. A lot of people are saying it's not a big deal when it is. It means that stagflation is probably coming, in my opinion. Hashtag not financial advice. And that means you should prepare for that specific economic environment so that you can keep making art and not become a wage slave. There you go.
Dude, that was actually really good. That was probably my favorite, like, financial, oriented episode so far.
Woo! Sweet. It was really long, but yeah.
And you didn't even like prepare correctly, right? Because I went first this time.
Oh yeah. I didn't write anything down until the podcast started.
Yeah, that's
this is wild. The extent of my notes. But see, I live and breathe this.
What the heck? It's like 10 lines.
Yeah. I live and breathe this, not because I like it's not like a vocation. It's not like, oh yeah, like I really was born to do this. It really isn't like that. I only went into this because I wanted to become an artist. That's literally why I know this stuff. And I want more artists to think more like that. Like you need to have this broader knowledge because you need to succeed. And this is one of the ways I need to succeed. So that when the economy's at the bottom, I come out with an esport broadcast.
Ooh.
And there's no competition. You see what I'm saying? That's what you're trying to do, right? Make lemonade from the lemons. Anyway, so that's that whole thing. And by the way, I am not rich at all. I am I'm pretty much in the maybe even like I'm not actually sure where the middle class line, like middle lower class lines are. I might technically on paper be in the lower middle class based off of my income, but I am positioned like I am in the upper middle class, if that makes sense. I am financially, my chess pieces are in such a way that I can still climb the ladder when other people are falling off of it. So there you
Gotcha.
go. Okay, so that's the episode. If you disagree with anything I said, well, it doesn't really matter because you're not making financial decisions based off of what I said, because I'm not a licensed financial advisor. So, but if you have a disagreement in the comments, put it down below, put it in our Discord. And if you enjoy the show at all, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help. I see that we are in a really interesting trickle-up phase with our podcast. It's very consistent, which is great to see because we've been struggling for a little while now. Especially the folks at Rumble. Shout out to y'all. But even I'm seeing some more consistent views on YouTube, which is great. Not high, but consistent. So if you want to share this podcast with someone who might enjoy it, please do so. And we'll see you next Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Where's the transition? There it is. Bye.
Look, tell a man no trouble. I don't want beef, man. I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time? Getting hype on my line. Tell a man I don't want feedback, I just want relax. Brand new whip, two-tone, I need that brand new hit. You know, like lean back, brand new bits I live in. We pack, man, you never gon' like us. Get them on sight now, let them on like that way. They know I'm more righteous. Look at my life, I'm living alright. I'm nice, you know I'm alright. Cause looking like Christ, no need for the hype or fight or telephone vipers.